evening skies, and the high-flying White Sox are in an early hole against the Mariners. Game 2 at Comiskey Park is coming right up. The last team on the playoff bus, the Seattle Mariners, kept rolling on down the highway in Game 1, speeding to a 3-0 lead. But the Chicago White Sox flashed their leather, and they flashed their lace to come storming back, grabbing a 4-3 lead that could have been much more. When the M's tried to drive back, the Palehose had the roadblock. But Lou Piniella has something different this year, like a bullpen that stands tall and owns a fiery glare. At 4-0 in the 10th, the old Mariners and the new old Mariners held the hammer and put a big hurt on Chicago 7-4. Is it the Sox' turn today? It's high noon in the Windy City, a little more like a football field, or certainly playoff baseball field in October. The White Sox and Mariners for Game 2 of this American League Division Series. Hello once again, everybody. I'm Chris Berman, along with Rick Sutcliffe, my analyst that makes me feel short. There's nothing short about yesterday's game. It was fabulous postseason baseball, won by the Mariners in 10 innings. So the Mariners are on a continual roll. The last team in, they're on that wave of emotion. They won yesterday. Now, do they keep on that wave, or do maybe they hit a little emotional wall here now that they got the first game? But hard to stop a wave that's led by A-Rod, Edgar Martinez, and John Olerud, like a tidal wave.
Well, it's amazing. In one game, the Seattle Mariners can take what the Chicago White Sox worked hard all year to obtain. That would be home field advantage, but they did that. Seattle took away the service as far as the tennis game was concerned. How did they do that? They did it with the heart of their order, as they have all year long. 3, 4, and 5, 6 RBIs. A-Rod, Edgar, and Olerud, the postseason experience that they've had in the past, showed up yesterday.
Well, Jerry Manuel, the manager of the White Sox, a team that scored more runs than anybody else in the major leagues this year, averaging over 6 a game, says, preaches patience all year long. They were not patient in Game 1. They were jittery. They were young. He said, if they're patient at the plate, we'll be back on our game. But here's the problem. How do you teach patience at each at-bat if you know that if you lose again at home, you're in deep, deep trouble?
Yeah, and you only got a 5-game series. The youth and inexperience of the Chicago White Sox showed up yesterday. In the 3rd, 4th, and 6th inning, they had a runner on 3rd and only 1 out. They couldn't get him in. In the bottom of the 9th, Magglio Ordonez had the winning run at second base. He took a swing at the first pitch and popped up. But you know what? Experience comes in a hurry. They've only played 1 game, but it doesn't matter. They know what the postseason's all about, Boomer. They are a lot more relaxed this afternoon.
Well, on paper, Rick, the White Sox would seem to have possibly a pitching advantage. Mike Soroka, the 3rd best ERA in the American League, against Paul Abbott of the Mariners, who won only 9 games. On paper, advantage White Sox, but you don't play games on paper.
ESPN's presentation of the Divisional Series is brought to you by Novell, the leading provider of net services software.
Here in Chicago yesterday, we had the game beginning with temperatures in the 70s, sunlit skies. It's 60 degrees and moving south, if you will, with the Windy City living up to its name. Winds from the northeast at 18 miles an hour, blowing from left to right. Cloudy, and they do expect a big front, as it did last night, I should say, after the game was over, to move through at about 4 o'clock. So it would behoove us to play it at a brisk pace. Lou Piniella gets off on the right foot with the win yesterday, made all the right moves, and he showed why his experience as a manager in postseason came into play, as well as his team that he puts on the field. In our Pepsi starting lineup, Mr. Leadoff Ricky Henderson in left field, Mike Cameron, the former White Sox, who impressed yesterday with 2 hits. Alex Rodriguez, 3 for 5 at shortstop. Edgar Martinez, the 2-run homer in the 10th to win it. John Olerud, who followed with the home run at first base. Jay Buhner in right field. David Bell at third base. Dan Wilson will catch. And Mark McLemore will be the second baseman. So Wilson for Oliver. The only change for Lou Piniella. Look at what Edgar Martinez has done against today's starter. And he has been, certainly since midseason, the ace of the Chicago White Sox, 28-year-old left-hander Mike Soroka.
He's one of those guys, Boomer, that wants the baseball. He's not 100%. The elbow has been a problem the last couple of weeks, but he's good enough to go today. When Mike Soroka is successful, he's pitching down in the zone, and he's getting a lot of ground balls to the third baseman and the shortstop. Well, let's not forget, defensively, that's been a problem this year for the White Sox. 36 errors for Valentin, and we know the third baseman, Herbert Perry, not at 100% with that hamstring.
Defense, and Charles Johnson, certainly wearing the camera for us, showed how good he played behind the plate.
What a job he did yesterday. And I thought the biggest play of the game for them was back in the third inning when he picked off A-Rod. First and second, nobody out. Olerud up to bunt. He threw behind A-Rod. They got him at third base. The next pitch was a double play from John Olerud. I thought that really settled down their young pitcher, Jim Parquet. He was terrific through the sixth inning after that.
Rickey Henderson, 78 leadoff home runs in the regular season. Brady is so far behind, as is Bobby Bonds and Paul Molitor, that not just like that stolen base list that Rickey has lapped the field on. He has one leadoff home run in the postseason, and as he did yesterday, Rickey Henderson leads off with a base hit. Unusual for Rick Sutcliffe, swinging at the first pitch, but he's done it again. He's on, and he's such an agitator.
Nobody in the history of baseball can divide a pitcher's attention as Rickey Henderson can. Right when you think, all right, you know, he's going to pass Babe Ruth next year in career base on ball, you figure he's going to take that first pitch. I'm just going to get ahead. The crowd was excited. Their voice, the volume, the level was up, and yet now Rickey Henderson turned that down.
So this brings up former White Sox Mike Cameron. He also swinging at the first pitch. Pops it wide at first where Paul Konerko will make the play. So two pitches, a single and an out. So maybe they get cabled down there, I guess, in the dugout, because we said they should play this at a brisk pace with rain coming. The Mariners are trying to oblige.
Well, Mike Cameron is trying to learn from the guy that led the game off in Rickey Henderson. Eventually, Cameron's going to be a leadoff hitter. That was part of the reason Lou Piniella and the Mariners wanted Rickey Henderson here, to help that learning curve for Mike Cameron. Try to speed that process up a little bit. Rickey swinging at the first pitch. The difference, though, Rickey got a good pitch to swing at. Mike Cameron didn't.
Alex Rodriguez, 3 singles yesterday, 3 for 5 and an RBI. Former batting champion, as is Edgar Martinez, as is John Olerud. So when you talk about 3, 4, 5 with power, yeah, they also hit for average. This certainly delivered, as we talked about in the open. We will keep an eye as Soroka evens the count to A-Rod. On Soroka, he went to 3 innings. His last start in the regular season last Thursday at home against the Red Sox. Lifted after a hyperextension in his left elbow, which you talked about. Would have normally been game 1 starter, but the Jerry Manuel held him back one more day. So we will see. He's on a, normally he would go 120, 125, but it might be more like 100 pitches today, Rick.
Yeah, normally he's not going to be on a pitch count. I'll be honest with you, I was a little bit surprised that they brought him back for game 2. With him throwing as many pitches as he did to prove himself Monday.
Oh, he could prove. Oh, and he throws that wide, it looked like, but no, it's not. The White Sox, who turned the double plays yesterday in a not the smoothest looking double play we've ever seen, but yet as effective as they need to be. White Sox coming up. White Sox turn the double play. Now can they make it double Dutch and do some hitting, as they've done all year for manager Jerry Manuel. 3rd season here with the White Sox as skipper. Learned at Felipe Alou in Montreal and on the Florida Marlins, Jim Leland in '97. And his team has posted the best record in the American League. Our Pepsi lineup is Ray Durham, who really was impressive in the field and at the plate with a home run yesterday. He leads off. Jose Valentin is at short, hitting second. The Big Hurt 0 for 3 yesterday, leaving 5 men on. Hits third. Maglio Ordonez in right field hitting cleanup. Carlos Lee in left field. Paul Konerko at first base. Herbert Perry is the third baseman, playing with that bad hamstring. Chris Singleton had a triple yesterday in the 8-hole in center. Charles Johnson had 3 hits in the 9 slot behind the plate before he was lifted. And what they could not do yesterday, they had their opportunities. Runners in scoring position, a woeful 2 for 14. Can they improve today against the left-handed, and I want to say journeyman, but a guy that's battled back from injury after injury? 9-game winner this year, and kind of a surprise starter for Game 2, Paul Abbott.
He's really been a surprise to their organization. His strength is a good sinking fastball. It's the reason that they can use him either in the rotation or down in the bullpen. When he's on, a lot of ground balls.
Durham shows bunt, pulls it back for ball 1. Ray make that what a great catch he made in short center field yesterday, in addition to the opposite field home run that he hit. And he swats this a long way to center. Mike Cameron is going back, and he turns the wrong way. It's off the wall. Durham into second base, continues to impress. How about showing bunt, and then the next pitch hitting at 400 feet?
Well, it shows you the power of Durham. He displayed that power yesterday, but this is Mike Cameron's fault right here. He never picked the baseball up. He didn't know where to go, and by the time he realized the ball was over his head, he could not get there. Cameron was one of the heroes yesterday. In the 7th inning, he drove in the tying run. He scored the winning run in the 10th. He scored the 2nd run in the 1st inning, but he may have just allowed the 1st run for the White Sox to score this afternoon. I'm misplaying that ball.
Jose Valentin shows bunt and pulls it back. He was 1 for 4 yesterday, including a double. So the Mariners come in much better fielding, at least by the percentages and by the amount of errors. But in this series thus far, the first inning of the 2nd game, the White Sox have played better in the field than Seattle has. Odd.
And you know what else was odd was around the cage today in batting practice, the first group, Maglio Ordonez, Ray Durham, and Frank Thomas. Yesterday they were quiet. Today they were screaming at each other. Ray Durham saying, "Somebody do something."
This has done something down the right field side, and this one will drop in. Durham scores. Valentin to second. Here come the White Sox. It's high noon, and the clock is dinging already.
With a man on second and nobody out, your job as a hitter is to pull the baseball, hit it to the right side of the field, and advance him to third. Ideally, you do exactly what Jose Valentin did. Not only advancing, but trade places with him. Watching these guys unload here in the first 2 at-bats makes me think about how good the Seattle Mariner bullpen was yesterday. 7 innings, they kept this powerful offense from scoring to win that first ball game. You can't hold this team down forever, though.
Abbott is up high. He's been up high with the first pitch every time, and both Durham and Valentin then teed off on the next. If Frank Thomas tees off, we may have a ball landing at O'Hare. One and one to the Big Hurt.
I asked Jay Buhner before the game, I said, "You guys got to be feeling pretty good about yourself." He says, "No." He says, "This offense is for real. These guys could put up 10 runs in the next 4 games consecutive. We can't take anything for granted. We have to pitch well."
And Alex Rodriguez is going to go in and talk with Paul Abbott, who began this year in the bullpen, made 8 appearances there, and then became a starter in early May, on May 9th to be exact.
This is leadership right here on the part of A-Rod. He had completely forgotten about Jose Valentin back there. Well, Valentin would like to steal third. That way Frank Thomas doesn't have to give up his at-bat by advancing him. Get to third base and let the Big Hurt drive you in. Now he's watching.
2-1 to Frank Thomas. Frank, the last, call him a relic, was a youngster on that 93 AL West championship team. He was 6 for 17 in that division series against Toronto, but 0 for 3 yesterday.
He's just too long right now with that swing. He's led this ball club all year. He's wanting to do it in the second season, that being the postseason. But you don't have to be long to be strong, and that's been a key to Frank Thomas throughout his career.
There goes Valentine. The throw by Dan Wilson is a good throw and catcher, but the White Sox hit a stolen base on top of 2 doubles.
And Boomer, right as he saw Valentine get the jump, Alex Rodriguez slammed his hand into his glove. He kicked the dirt. He walked in. He shook his head because he had just told Abbott, don't forget about the man at second. Well, he paid attention to him for a couple of pitches, and then he forgot about him.
Payoff pitch to Frank Thomas. Gets under it. Will it be deep enough to score the runner? This is Ricky Henderson. The bluff. And it's a good thing that he bluffed because it was shallow enough for Ricky to make an on-target throw. Valentin back to third. He stole a base yesterday, stole a base today. The young change on the defense. We told you Dan Wilson, a better defensive catcher than Joe Oliver. Oliver did his job yesterday, Rick, with a home run.
Well, also Alex Rodriguez did his job offensively and defensively last year. Only 10 errors on the year for A-Rod. MVP type offensive numbers, and just scary to think that he just turned 25 years of age. He's going to get better.
See the numbers for Maglio Ordonez, a star in the waiting. Infield in, trying to choke off a potential second White Sox run. Yesterday was the Mariners who led 3-0 after an inning and a half. And the White Sox get that sort of jump, a balloon at second base, and McLemore steps out and hoping to burst the White Sox balloon. Frank's been under everything's been a pop-up, either infield or outfield, and he's 0 for 4 this far. Inside and high, ball 2. We should tell you that Kerwin Ganley is the umpire behind the plate today. His 3rd year in the majors, came out of the PCL. Mike Riley at first, Mike Winters at second, Rick Reed at third, Doug Eddings left. Yesterday's plate umpire Charlie Relaford on the right field line. Should be out of play, 2-1.
I don't think Abbott's really concerned about falling behind Maglio Ordonez here. He knows that he doesn't have to give in this situation. The guy behind him, Carlos Lee, is a good offensive player, but he's not a Maglio Ordonez yet, and he has also grounded into 17 double plays this year. If Abbott gets that good sinker going, it could happen again.
Holds off the high pitch, and it's 3-1.
And this pitch right here, I think, will be the telling tale as to whether the Chicago White Sox learned from their mistakes yesterday. If it's not a strike, Ordonez cannot be selfish, cannot be over-aggressive and expand the zone. Stay within the strike zone. He doesn't give you anything to hit. Have confidence the guy behind you can get something done.
Fouls it. Were you ready to make that play? There's one booth over.
I got you covered, partner.
Okay.
If I can take care of myself from 60 feet 6 inches away from that mound, I can cover you from here. Look at this pitch right here, though. Is that not ball 4? Is that not a young mistake by a young, terrific hitter?
Payoff pitch. That is ball 4, however. So now runners on the corners with 1 out for Carlos Lee. Lou Piniella, you know what? Yesterday, starting Freddie Garcia, and today starting Paul Abbott, starting 2 guys that won 9 games. Never in the history of Major League Baseball, in any postseason series, has any team started 2 pitchers, neither of whom have won double figures in games. It's just odd. Here's Carlos Lee. And talking with batting coach Vaughn Joshua, he said, here's the guy that we need to get going a little bit. Magglio had good swings with only 1 hit extra bases yesterday. Lee had a hit late, a double to lead off the 10th after the game was pretty much decided. He thinks he'll play a big role. And you know what? With runners on the corners in the first inning, he's right.
Well, they're making the same mistakes they did yesterday. Big, long swings, everybody trying to hit the ball out of the park. They hit a lot of home runs this year, but they put themselves in counts to where they got good pitches to do that with.
Foul back, and so now a rarity. Abbott ahead of a hitter, 1 and 2. Carlos Lee, 300 hitter, hit 301. There's Abbott, who will tell you his story as the game progresses. He
Quite a story.
lesson in perseverance. Has worn 15 different professional baseball uniforms, the majority, of course, in the minors.
Remember, when you warm up in the pen, you get control of your fastball, you get control of your breaking ball, you locate your changeup, but you cannot get control of your adrenaline when this crowd gets loud and all of a sudden the umpire goes play ball. Abbott's struggling with that right now. And was struggling with the adrenaline. He's lost command of the fastball, breaking ball, and change.
Valentin is at third base. Ordonez is at first. 1 run home. Sox looking for more. Team that scored almost 1,000 runs, 978 this year. Rip, but just foul. And Valentin and Wallace Johnson, the third base coach, to do a little John Travolta down there.
He might be checking his body right now for leaks. He has no idea how that ball missed him. But Valentin doing it properly. It was in foul territory to begin with, because if you get hit there, there's no problem. It's a foul ball. You get hit in fair territory, you're out.
Popped in the infield. McLemore and Olerud. Olerud takes charge. Now there's 2 out. Runners remain at the corners, and here's the first baseman, Paul Konerko, who came over from Cincinnati a couple of years ago in a trade for the Mariners center fielder, Mike Cameron. Cameron eventually coming to Seattle in the Griffey trade before this season. Konerko traded for Cameron. One-time budding star of the Dodgers system. 37 homers, 127 RBIs 3 years ago at AAA Albuquerque. Really finding himself in this home here in Chicago, as opposed to LA or Cincinnati. Sun is making an appearance, which is delightful. Weather improving, at least early. God, yesterday was great, wasn't it? Oh, great. 1-0 to Konerko. Little check swing. Abbott from the seat of his pants to Olerud. Well, we told you he persevered, and he did. So the White Sox had the Mariners on the rope. They do get one, but they wanted more. Chris Berman, Rick Sutcliffe with you here in the top of the second inning. A high noon start here in Chicago between the White Sox and the Mariners, and a long looping ball one from Mike Sorotka to yesterday's hero, Edgar Martinez. 37 years young. Said earlier, I think he wakes up hitting, he falls asleep hitting, he has dinner hitting, reads the paper hitting. 145 RBIs to lead the American League. And, of course, the big 2-run home run in the 10th inning yesterday in a 2-1 pitch spelled victory for the Mariners. That's a nice-looking pitch on the outside corner. Sut 2-2.
Boomer, we were in Seattle a couple of weeks ago, and A-Rod took me over to Edgar's locker and showed me a scale, a weighing scale that Edgar has to weigh his bats. I've seen a lot of things in players' lockers over the years. I had never seen that before. But he wants to know exactly what each bat weighs. He's got some that are a little heavier, some that's a little lighter, and it depends on the pitcher.
Plus, he does everything. He cleans up the infield. I mean, look, put the paper right in his pocket. Got a scale, garbage. He fouls this one off. He set a record at 37 years of age for RBIs, most ever by a player at that age. Babe Ruth, at the age of 37, at 137 in 1932. Anytime you can break a record owned by Babe Ruth, I think it's pretty good. Ripped down the right field line. Over is Ordonez with a good arm. Martinez into second base with a double. The hitting machine continues to hit on all cylinders.
Well, he led the American League in RBIs this year. He hit a 2-run homer yesterday in the 10th inning to help win the ball game. And because of that, manager Jerry Manuel of the White Sox had to answer a lot of questions. There was a runner at second. Mike Cameron stole second base. The first base was open. Why wouldn't you intentionally walk Edgar and get to John Olerud? He had hit into a double play earlier in the game. Jerry Manuel decided not to do that. And because of it, was second-guessed a lot.
What do you think as John Olerud, who followed Martinez with the next pitch with a 418-foot home run? He told me the longest he'd hit in a long time. What do you think? Was that the right move?
I think it was the right move to go ahead and pitch to Edgar. Now, the pitch that was thrown obviously was not. You've got a veteran out there on the mound in your closer, Keith Foulke. Why don't you let him go ahead and do what Jerry Manuel did and pitch to him? And let him expand the zone. You're not going to give him anything to hit. I think that was the plan. But there's always that human element involved. Foulke made a mistake. Edgar hit it out. They lose game 1.
And that hits Olerud, and he will be on. So the Mariners in business here in the second. And it's to hit off a little bit of an equipment padding because no one's going out to check the elbow.
Yeah, but watch him.
Yeah,
look at that.
Well, it kind of
That's called taking one
yes.
for the team right there.
No, inventing one for the team. He kind of leaned, and so he hit a 418-foot homer yesterday. We'll just get an excuse me hit by pitch today.
But he hit that homer off a right-hander. He had seen a lot of left-handers before that.
That was a blast. Here's a guy that can blast him, Jay Ferris Buhner. No day off for him. 26 homers this year in a big comeback season. Valentine pulls Durham off the bag, and now everyone is safe. Well, they got away with an unorthodox double play in the first inning. That was going to be tough to turn 2, but they didn't even turn 1.
Their inexperience kept this ball game at 1-0 in the first inning. You got a man on third, you got to get him in, but you've got to get pitches to do that. I don't think Paul Abbott threw more than 4 pitches that would have been called strikes in the bottom of the first inning. Now the other weakness for the Chicago White Sox all of a sudden surfaces. That infield defense that was a problem all year once again gets them.
Nardi Contreras, the pitching coach, he made 3 trips in the first 3 innings to Jim Parquet, and by the 3rd trip, the message got through to Parquet. So maybe he's doing the same thing with not as young, but another pitcher in the 20s, Mike Soroka. Waiting for the official scoring lineup, but we can tell you that Edgar Martinez is at 3rd, John Olerud is at 2nd, and Jay Buhner is at 1st.
Why are we waiting on an official scoring? Olerud's not fast. It was a 40-foot throw.
I know.
That was off the mark.
Because we're not the official scorer. If we were the official scorers, it would be done. David Bell is up. Hit a double yesterday and 4 plate appearances. Was very busy at 3rd. Some rockets hit past him. Deflected one and almost KO'd an umpire. Made a couple of nice plays. opportunity with a 28-year-old third baseman. Ripped to the left side. Martinez scores. Olerud being held up. So checkerboard baseball, but the Mariners have tied it.
Boomer, I was really surprised that Mike Soroka was named the starting pitcher today. I know the routine that he went through on Monday during the workout. He threw about 90 pitches. He threw from a couple 100 feet, long tossing. He threw off the flat ground some breaking balls. Then he went to the mound and threw. That's totally different than a guy would normally have in between starts.
This is Dan Wilson. Did not start yesterday, got in later. And Wilson was 0 for 2 yesterday, and that extends something that he can't wait to see ended. He is 0 for his last 32 postseason at-bats. His last hit came in the '95 Division Series, Mariners against the Yankees, breaking the mark set by starving Marvin Owen. You played with him, Rick, on the 34-35 Tigers.
Come on.
All right, we both followed him in Waterbury, okay?
There you go.
Okay. So, whereas yesterday, as the count is 2-1 with the bases full and 1 run in. Whereas yesterday, Lou Piniella gambled, and I won't elaborate this point at this moment, gambled, brought Jose Mesa in. He delivered. Now he has, quote, added a reliever. If he gets Wilson a couple of hits today, he's added a hitting catcher for the playoffs, if you follow.
And he's not going to catch Joe Oliver every day of the playoffs. He's not done that all year.
Wilson hits it well to center. Chris Singleton is there. Tagging is Olerud. Here's the throw. It's cut off, and they do not get the runner at second base. 2-1 Seattle.
All three of the outfielders for the Chicago White Sox have the ability to throw people out at home plate. Paul Konerko, though, does a good job here. The throw would have been there in time, but it was off the line. He could see it tailing down the first base line, and he did all he could possibly do. We're not going to look at it. It's going over there. You see the catcher, Charles Johnson, coming off home plate. You're not going to get him at home. So Konerko did the smart thing. You cut it and try to get somebody else, although it was smart base running on the part of Jay Buhner to keep from getting caught.
So not a hit, but a key RBI on a sac fly for Dan Wilson. And that brings up Mark McLemore with 2 men on and just 1 out.
And it was that sac fly that the Chicago White Sox were not able to get in the bottom of the first inning when they had a runner at third.
By the way, it took a while, but they finally did post an error on Valentin on that play. So Buhner, fielder's choice. Olerud got the second on E6. Scoring at home, and I know actually many people do score at home. You had it written down.
That wasn't a base hit.
I know what it wasn't. Slow chopper, and this is going to be trouble. Herbert Perry in. But they do get McLemore. I thought he might beat that out. Must have got a slow start out of the box.
It was that cut fastball in on his hands, Boomer. They call that the saw blade. A lot of times it will cut your bat in half. One thing it does, though, it keeps a right-hander in the box a lot longer. McLemore, a switch hitter, look at him. He almost collapsed there. He did not get out of the box in a hurry. Herbert Perry makes a real nice play. Mike Soroka needs his infield defense, particularly on the left side there at third and short. A nice play by Herbert Perry, but it was an error by Valentin that set up this big inning.
Mike Soroka needs to retire Ricky Henderson right here. 2 runs are in. A single would bring in 2 more. Swinging at the first pitch again is Ricky, and that's a foul ball as everybody gets tangled up over there. Buhner, Perry, umpire Rick Reed, third base coach Larry Boa is a basic speakeasy over there.
Well, I just mentioned Buhner making a nice play at second base with 2 outs right here. I mean, you get back to the bag, that all looks good, but how come you're not going home on that ball? I mean, that's 2 outs. ball's put in play, you go.
Way inside, 1-1. Ricky singled on the first pitch of the game, was erased on an unorthodox pitcher to short the first double play in the top of the first. Looper to second, and Ray Durham is there. Mariners looking for a big inning, will settle for a pair. They have the lead heading to the bottom of the second here at Comiskey in Chicago. Mariners on top of the White Sox 2-1. Bottom of inning number 2, and baseball continues later this afternoon on ESPN as the last series to get underway. The best record in the National League, San Francisco Giants. And if you at Pac-Bell Park, what a great place that is. Levon Hernandez goes against Mike Hampton of the New York Mets. That series should be outstanding. And then our friends at Fox tonight at 8 Eastern, 5 on the West Coast, the Yanks against the A's. Andy Pettit, Kevin Appier. How about those Oakland A's? How about those AL West teams? 2-12 from 96 to 99 in the postseason. Yesterday, the AL West 2-0.
About Jason Giambi just saying we're too young to know we're not supposed to be doing this.
That was a great scene in Oakland, just great. Herbert Perry, time quarterback and punter at University of Florida, as we said yesterday, a teammate of Emmitt Smith, playing with a very bad hamstring, but Seattle only tried to bunt on him once. It wasn't a good one, and Perry made the play yesterday. He also rips this, fielded by Alex Rodriguez. Sets himself beautifully, knowing that Perry's running and he doesn't have to gun it, so he made a sure throw to Olerud. Nice play.
Boomer, the main thing that makes a good infielder is to have a good clock. That means you know when to hurry up and you know when you can slow down. After A-Rod secures the baseball in his glove, he knows who the base runner is. Herbert Perry is not fast to begin with. You throw in a hamstring injury, he's going to get slower. A-Rod knew the difficult part was making that play. Once he got it, everything slows down. Get up. Nice big target at first base. Nice throw.
Chris Singleton, young man from the Bay Area, from the East Bay. Grew up an Oakland A's fan. I'm sure very quietly he was thrilled last night at the A's win over the Yankees. Chris had a triple in 5 trips to the plate yesterday, RBI. And Abbott is just up high with a lot of stuff. I mean, you know, the first inning, Sud, he threw like only 4 strikes. I know he'll get credit for more, but really only 4 were strikes, don't you think?
Absolutely. Taking advantage of the youth and inexperience of the White Sox.
There's a strike to make it 2-1. That will be just foul. You know, I have a theory on this game, and, you know, we actually pulled a lot of things out yesterday, and a lot of things came true. A series like this one, we did happen to do this series last year, type of series, that the wild card team in the National League, the Mets, they didn't clinch till the Monday. They flew into Arizona on a high, you know, essentially not even needing a plane. They won the first game against Randy Johnson as Singleton strikes out. They won the first game on a homer at 2 a.m. Eastern time, 11 p.m. Pacific, on a slam by Alfonso in the ninth. They won that game on the road, and then they kind of hit a wall a little bit. It was Stottlemyre against Rogers. It was 5-1 Arizona after 5 innings. It was just kind of, the Mets kind of just hit that temporary wall. My point is, if the White Sox get a big lead today, Rick, I think not the Mariners will give in, but maybe they've, you know what, we've done our job. We finally have a breather. We're going home no worse than 1-1. Okay. But if this game stays close for 5 or 6, then I think the White Sox really, the pressure cooker hits them. I know it took me a long time to give you that theory, but do you
I agree with it, absolutely.
I had a Louis Tiant wind-up on that story. I apologize.
Well, the Mariners have already gotten what they wanted. They wanted a split here at worst. But you know what? with that win yesterday, they still showed up today.
Oh, no, I know that.
And they compete. That's been the biggest thing about them all year.
Ooh. Charles Johnson hit up high. So each team has been hit once.
In the regular season, you might think a little payback right here, a little retaliation. You hit my guy, I'm going to get one of yours. 2 outs, nobody on base. But you don't retaliate in postseason. Not at all. That's what spring training's for. You got to get somebody, get them in.
Back to that theory, you know what I'm saying? That the White Sox come out and put the hammer down, well, then maybe we see a runaway. The longer this stays close, then that patience that Jerry Manuel was preaching, there's no way they can remain patient late in the game with a close game.
I think the further this series goes, the more patient, the more experience, obviously, the White Sox will gain. And let's not forget, they're a great team on the road this year. 49-32. Actually, a better record on the road than they had here at home. And that's really been the secret to Seattle's success. They would not be in the postseason if they didn't win 9 out of their last 10 road games themselves. And, of course, the first postseason game on the road they win.
A-Rod, the flip to McLemore. Johnson is retired at second, and the White Sox go quietly. 2-1 Seattle through 2.
ESPN's presentation of the divisional series is brought to you by WorldCom Generation D.
Welcome back to Comiskey Park in Chicago. Chris Berman, Rick Sutcliffe, glad you could be with us on our second day of coverage here on ESPN of the division series. We're bringing these to you ever since '96. Mike Soroka starts off here, the top of the third inning, on Mike Cameron with a breaking ball in for a strike. October 4th, 20 years ago. 57-year-old Minnie Minoso pinch hit to become only the first 5-decade player. 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. It was on this day 20 years ago. Minnie threw out the first pitch yesterday. Billy Pierce, a member of the World Series 59 White Sox, or AL champ team, threw out the first pitch today. White Sox hoping some old magic for you. Minnie Minoso. They wanted to bring him back in the 90s to make it 6 decades, but they said, you know what? Don't do it. Ripped and handled by Herbert Perry. To Konerko, Cameron's gone 1 out.
How about the toughness of Herbert Perry? There's a lot of guys with injuries like he's got that would shut it down. I can't play. I think a little bit of that football mentality has come out in him here. Yesterday we saw him diving down into the rail, down the third base line, trying to get a pop-up. Given everything he's got going down the line when he was on the base. You know, baseball players get criticized, and they should from time to time, for not being able to play with injuries that hockey players, football players play with. You hear about pitchers getting hangnails, and they're out for 2 or 3 weeks.
I know you never could understand that. I think you took the post hurt a couple times.
I don't think a hangnail got me. I had a few things that did, though.
Alex Rodriguez. Hangnail's not going to get him.
So many incredible numbers for him this year. But the most incredible to me is 148 games played. He played about 6 weeks on 1 leg.
This will be out of play. Two-1 Mariners here in the third. Mariners getting a 2 spot in the second. A sharp single by David Bell and a sac fly by Dan Wilson after the White Sox had taken the lead in the first with a leadoff double by Durham, following by a double for Valentine. They were in business in the first, but came away with only 1. So it's Seattle that has the lead early, as they did yesterday. 2-2 to A-Rod with Edgar Martinez on deck.
been keeping a close eye on Soroka and his delivery, and there's been nothing different than what we saw all year from him. Well, he's not favoring that elbow. One comment he made was the fact that he heard it throwing a slider, good hard breaking ball. He said that he probably wouldn't be able to use that pitch today, but he said it didn't matter. It was his 4th best pitch. Well, I thought he was kind of setting up the Mariners with that comment.
Oh, that was ripped right through the box. Soroka was fortunate that he fell off to the first base side, or could have had trouble. So A-Rod is on with a 1-out hit, and here comes that man, Edgar Martinez.
How strong is Alex Rodriguez? That ball was hit like a bullet, and yet he did it with a broken bat. He flipped the bat over the bat boy in pieces after he hit that ball.
Up top to Edgar Martinez, ball 1. You almost hear a hush in the crowd. Oh God, it's Edgar Martinez. You know, they remember the Yankee crowds when George Brett and the Royals would come in year after year. They didn't boo him. It was almost like nervous quiet. When they retired, Brett, it was a loud cheer, but not so much, hey, good play, Yankees. It was a relief cheer. I almost sense that coming with him at the plate here in Chicago. Do you?
Absolutely. But they not only sense that here in Chicago, that's all around baseball.
Sun now out pretty full. This is delightful. One and one, the count to Edgar Martinez with Alex Rodriguez at first. 1 out here, top 3. Slow chopper up the middle. Taylor made this time for Valentin to step on the bag. Over to Konerko, the 2nd double play today, the 4th in the series thus far. 2-1 Seattle. Bottom of the 3rd here in Chicago. The White Sox trail the Mariners 2-1 in game number 2 of this American League Division Series. 2-3-4 coming up for Chicago. Valentin, RBI double in the 1st, then Frank Thomas, then Maglio Ordonez.
Both of these guys seem to have those butterflies and adrenaline under control. They've settled down. Soroka doing what he does best, getting the ground ball double plays. And now Abbott locating that sinker. He had an easy inning in the bottom of the 2nd himself.
Crowd sensing maybe a big inning and maybe a little lightning off the bat of the Big Hurt. He's in the on-deck circle looking for his first hit in this series. Jose Valentin came over from the Brewers along with Cal Eldred in their trade for Navarro and John Snyder. What is that there? We got a special hickory stick.
Big old piece of steel.
Little drag bunt. Abbott. Safe. And Olerud is not sure about that. And here comes Lou. Oh, what a nice pickup he made. And Lou will lace into Mike Riley. Maybe not. He said no, he was off the base. Or it was an awful quick decision that Lou said, okay, you saw it, that's it.
Well, my first impression is that John Olerud doesn't complain unless he's right. He thought he was out. Olerud knew that he made a nice play coming up with the ball. He thought the ball was there in plenty of time. But it's not John Olerud's decision that matters. Valentin down the line in a hurry. Watch Olerud come up with it.
He's out. Think he's out? See it again.
Olerud did. You did. I do. But we don't count. You know, who counts is Mike Riley.
Lou didn't stay out there very long.
Well, he's not going to change it. What Lou's going to do is going to go out. Are you sure you got it right? You don't need any help. Mike Riley will say, yeah, I got it right. He'll come back. He'll check our replay. And then he'll have something to say to Mike Riley.
So Valentin now 3 for 6 in this series. And here's Frank Thomas, 0 for 4. Left 5 men on yesterday. One on today thus far. Is this the moment for the breakthrough? Just outside. 1-1.
Valentine doesn't have the speed of a young Ricky Henderson or a Ray Durham, but a very intelligent base runner. 19 stolen bases on the year, only caught twice. Already a stolen base this afternoon.
You know, I find interesting, you know, and I, of course, announced games with Frank Thomas for over 10 years, and his wife made me Elise Silver. So the eldest of their 3 kids, son, named Sterling. I like that. That's great. Fouled onto the screen, and Abbott is ahead 1-2.
Next timing just a little bit off right now. Check out the location on this breaking ball. Oh my goodness. You know, I'd still be playing if they would foul those pitches off when I was on the mound. That was a mistake that Abbott got away with. How long is he going to be able to continue to do that?
Slow chopper. Foul ball. Foul ball. David Bell fielded it. And, of course, the fans didn't see the foul. It was called right away by Rick Reed, the umpire at third base. That was going to be another bang-bang play at first.
Well, but David Bell shows all of you young infielders out there what to do. Play third base. Don't play umpire. He thinks the ball's foul. He can see that. But go ahead and make the play to the best of your ability. Instead of just holding it, turning around and looking, every now and then a play is missed. It looked like the play to start this inning was missed at first base. David Bell doing the solid thing. Come up with it and make the throw. Let the umpire do his job. You do yours.
Popped up again. David Bell makes the play, and Thomas is 0 for 5, and every one of them, Sut, has been an infield or outfield pop-up.
Another very hittable pitch. Abbott was trying to paint the outside corner. Look at where Wilson is. Now look at where Wilson's glove goes to. He's sitting down and away. He wants that backdoor sinker. Try to get a ground ball, maybe a double play. Location still off for Abbott, but the timing and the swing of Frank Thomas off as well. He's trying to lift everything. Again, you don't have to be long to be strong.
Well, he's strong enough. Oh, there's no issue there. So Maglio Ordonez walked in the first, stranded there. 1 for 5 with a triple yesterday and an RBI. In there for a strike. At least this inning, Abbott's gotten ahead of a couple of the hitters. First inning, behind everybody. The White Sox only got the 1 run.
Good thing he got ahead of Maglio there. He'd like to hit and run with the count in the hitter's favor. It's not now. So that might eliminate the hit and run, but it doesn't eliminate the stolen base opportunity for Valentine.
In there for a strike, 0-2. Abbott had a very strong start this year against the White Sox, losing a 2-1 game. He appeared against them in April and got tattooed in relief. So his ledger as a starter, very good, albeit 0-1. But the ERA very high against the White Sox this year because of that relief outing, which went 3 innings, gave up 7 runs. But that's ancient history now. That was April. Count remains at 0-2.
What a great story it's been for Paul Abbott. The ups and downs that he has had trying to get to the big leagues. He's established himself now. He was in the big leagues back in 1990 with the Minnesota Twins. But since then has only been able to put together 3 years of major league service. A lot of injuries involved. How about this? He's been signed as a minor league free agent 6 times. I mean, that basically means that you're open. You've been released.
Well, Elizabethton, Kenosha, Visalia, Orlando, Portland, the Twins, Canton, Akron, the Indians, Charlotte, Omaha, Iowa, Las Vegas, Tacoma, Peoria, and the Mariners. Those are the 15 professional uniforms that he has worn. And you're right. He pitched the Twins 90, 91, 92, a little bit with Cleveland 93, then out of the majors for 5 years until he came up with Seattle. This year he found a home. Perseverance, you're right.
Yeah, a lot of injuries involved in there too. Shoulder surgery, some knee surgery. He was injured earlier this year in May, pitching in Baltimore. Harold Baines, broken back, came back, hit him in the face, all kinds of stitches.
Yet he had a superlative outing. He took a no-hitter in Boston into the 8th. There's no-hitter into the 8th inning. One out in the 8th. Broken up at Fenway by Rico Brogna. That was just in early September. Lou felt pretty good about sending him out there, and as you point out, he's gotten away with stuff. Doesn't matter how you do it.
Well, he couldn't send Aaron Seeley out there because he had to use him in the ball game on Sunday. And he didn't want to send John Halama or Jamie Moyer out there because of all of the right-handed power that the Chicago White Sox have. Moyer and Halama being left-handed pitchers.
Foul just below us. Count remains at 2-2. Pitch looked a little up. With 2 strikes, I guess you don't take a chance.
Ordonez normally knows that strike zone. The first 2 pitches in this at-bat he took for called strikes. There's been 2 pitches also in this at-bat that he has chased that have been out of the zone. Close, but nonetheless balls.
Rip to left, but foul.
He was late on those 2 fastballs that he chased out of the zone, which meant he was staying back. Well, he was not late on that. In fact, he was too quick. And when a hitter starts to cheat to get out in front of home plate with the barrel of that bat to hit the fastball, that normally tells a pitcher that something of the off-speed variety could be successful and help you out.
There goes the runner. The throw by Wilson gets into center field. So Valentine will round second and head to third. Another fielding miscue by the normally sure-leathered Mariners.
Well, you can give them some blame for that, but you got to give Jose Valentine some credit. His manager, Jerry Manuel, wants his ball club to be fearless. Take a chance. Well, he knows when to take that chance, and now is the time. Just as he did earlier in the first inning when he stole third base, he's on third base again with less than 2 outs.
That gets away from Wilson, but Valentine won't come in on that one. Valentine with just 19 stolen bases in the season, Rick, but 3 in this series. And
you know, just like Ray Durham's stolen base count was down, he had stolen over 30 bases the last 3 years, didn't this year. The reason for that was because this team scored so many runs. When you're up by 5 after 5 innings or 6, you don't run. And that's the reason their stolen base total not as high as it could have been.
Talked about Carlos Lee being a guy the White Sox were hoping to get underway. He hits this one a ton. Back it goes, and Buhner is there to make the grab. But tagging and scoring and tying the game is Valentine.
One of the strengths of the Seattle Mariners all year was their defense, but it was the error on the stolen base that allowed Valentine to get to third. Without that error, this sacrifice fly would not have existed. The run would not have scored. But because of the error, we're right back where we started, Boomer, with a tie ball game.
Ordonez remains at first, 2-2 game, and Paul Konerko up with 2 out. And there goes Ordonez. And they just be running on Abbott because Wilson has a good gun back there, and he didn't have much of a chance on that one, Rick.
He had no chance on Valentin in the first inning when he stole third after Alex Rodriguez came to the mound and told him to pay attention to him. A-Rod really frustrated now, kicking the dirt because he knows Paul Abbott has fallen into that pattern once again. You've got to recognize running situation. All right, Valentin gets on with the bunt single. He's not going to run with Frank Thomas up there. He's not going to take them out of a big inning. But now Thomas makes it out. Now he might go.
Ordonez only had 18 stolen bases in the regular season, yet he runs right away. Joel Pinheiro, a surprise addition to the Mariners Division Series roster. Now they brought up AAA for not that long, but Lou electing to use him as each club has 14 players and 11 pitchers. This is out of play.
You know, I'm learning a lot about Maglio Ordonez as well in this series. Saw him play 5 or 6 times during the season. Knew he could hit. Knew he could catch the ball when he got there. Knew he had a good arm. But we saw a sliding, diving play defensively by him yesterday. And now we're seeing him steal bases. Not the first time he's done it. Did it 18 times during the regular season.
Is there room for Olerud? Yes, there is. Right in front of the photographer's box. Focus and click on John Olerud making this play. The White Sox have tied it 2-2. Back in Chicago, the first pitch here in the top of the 4th from Mike Soroka to John Olerud in there for a strike. We're tied again, a situation we certainly enjoyed yesterday till the 10th inning. It was 4-4 yesterday. The Mariners on home runs by Edgar Martinez and John Olerud, winning it 7-4. And here is Olerud in the infield, Herbert Perry. And there's one out. Rick, you notice a very interesting sidelight to Olerud's fine catch to end the inning at the photographer's box.
Well, the pop-up Olerud catches a lot more difficult than the one that he just hit to Herbert Perry. But watch what happens afterwards. We mentioned Lou Piniella and the opportunity to go in and watch our replay that showed that Mike Riley missed the call. So what does Piniella do? He doesn't embarrass the umpire in a situation, but the first opportunity to get to him, he goes out there and he says, hey, I saw the replay, you missed it. Well, all Mike Riley can do at first base is believe him. Riley has no opportunity to go watch the replay. He did the best he could to make the right call. But now in the back of his mind, all right, I missed one. The next close play at first base might go Seattle's way because of Lou Piniella doing his job.
How about Lou and his postseason experience? Certainly both as a player, but really as a manager. He managed a beautiful game yesterday. He even said to me before the game, hey, if Jose Mesa had come in and been tattooed or given up a big hit, I would have been vilified. Certainly at home, and like, what are you doing? Don't you know any better? Well, guess what? He trusted him. He's on our team. This is what I think of my bullpen. Mesa did the job, and now he has a better player as a result of it. And that was only one of the moves that he made. I just thought I mean, it's funny, White Sox fans, a lot of them, as the count is 2-2 to Jay Buhner. And this is fouled off. I said, well, boy, you know, Manuel is his first postseason game. Lou outmanaged him. I hate to look at it that way. Manuel did the right thing because if his young relievers deliver in this situation, they've already got their playoff experience. It's just that Lou managed a beautiful game. It's not one outmanaged the other. I don't believe that at all. Do you agree?
I agree with you. Not only his young relievers do the job, but his young hitters didn't get the job done yesterday either.
Oh, this is slugged by Jay Buhner. Back, way back. Gone! My, oh my. 2/3 up in the bleachers. I mean, Carlos Lee gave it a couple of steps, but he almost could have done a Yaz. You know what that is? You just stay there with your glove on your knee and you don't even come up. That was just a bomb.
There was no doubt in Jay Buhner's mind this ball was gone. Knew he did not have to get out of the box. The hanging breaking ball, the extension. Well, I've been there before. I know what that's like. 26 times he hit the ball out of the park during this regular season for Buhner.
David Bell grounds to Valentin at short, over to Konerko. 2 out. Buhner's 7th postseason home run, and boy, he used to do those bombs like that all the time. That's the form that we've come to know and appreciate through the years.
He was always a 40 homer guy, 100 RBI type guy, but physically Jay Buhner says, I can't play every day anymore. Manager Lou Piniella and their training staff recognize that. But when he does play, he can be productive. So they set up a program for him to play 3 or 4 times a week. Stay healthy, and he did. Well, you look at those numbers, 112 games on the year, 360 at-bats. That's about half a year, a little more than that. But 26 homers, 82 RBIs. Those are terrific numbers and terrific production when you think about you've got somebody else out there to help, too, in other ball games.
Wilson, a sacked fly in the 2nd inning, driving in the 2nd Mariner run in that inning. Count is 2-1 to very personable backstop, longtime backstop for the Mariners that Lou Piniella got to know when he was a minor league catcher in the Red system. Oliver was a major league catcher. Wilson was the young rising star in the minors. Lou got to Seattle and immediately made a deal involving Wilson to get him over here. And he draws a base on ball. So he hasn't snapped that 0 for 32 streak yet, but he's got a sac fly, he's got a base on balls. It's coming. You can feel it's coming. You know what? That double latte that I had in honor of all the Mariners fans getting up for 10 a.m. I mean, that's starting to kick in.
That's where that came from.
Double latte, you know, and I'm sure many of our viewers in the Pacific Northwest have fired down many a double latte this morning. Slow roller to Valentin, flip to Durham, and Wilson is forced at second, and McLemore rounds into the fielder's choice. It ends the middle of the 4th, but Jay Buhner, yikes! The Mariners have regained the lead. Seattle 3, the White Sox 2 in the bottom of the 4th here at Comiskey Park. Here since 1991, across the street from the old Comiskey, home of the White Sox for almost the entire 20th century. And shots like this and others provided by our friends at the Budweiser Blimp. It's eye in the sky camera, 1,000 feet above Comiskey, helping us out with today's game. We thank them, and to all baseball fans, this Bud's for you. King of beers, the king of blimps. Herbert Perry off the glove of David Bell, his opposite. And with a bad hammy, no way he could try to maybe hustle that into a double, but he's hit a shot off Bell's glove, and Perry with the 2nd hit of this series.
That's exactly the way he hit the ball in his last at bat in the bottom of the 2nd, only he hit it at A-Rod, and A-Rod was able to make the play. David Bell is in the lineup because he is better defensively than the young Carlos Guillen, who they platoon with from time to time. David Bell did the tough part, getting to that ball, but not able to make that play. A play that he could have made.
Hit all the way as Chris Singleton looks at strike 1. Sun out again. Boy, the day has turned out thus far much better than advertised. Everything perfect in Chicago except for the White Sox fans. 1 loss and 1 trail. 0-2 to Singleton. This struck out in the 2nd. They're looking for some action. They kind of left a half inning early last night, I might add.
Well, they've seen action all year long here in this ballpark. More runs scored here than any other American League park. A couple of National League parks that average more runs per game than the 11.8 here at Comiskey.
Is one of them a mile high? Just a guess. Does one of them have a train in the outfield? Those would be the two guesses I would make. Slow chopper to McLemore. To A-Rod, and it was so slow, and then had to wait and charge it because of the runner who did a good job, Perry. They only get the 4. So heads up.
That's that clock that infielders need. You've got to know the speed of the base runner. You've got slow at first base, and you've got fast going down the first base line. Herbert Perry had to hesitate. Mark McLemore knows that he's got time to get the force at second. You're not going to get 2. So look at A-Rod there. Instead of playing shortstop, A-Rod turns into a first baseman. Give him a nice big target. Don't go anywhere. Help him out in case the throw's off the mark.
Charles Johnson, 3 for 4 yesterday. Hit by pitch is only time up today. Regained that hitting stroke. He's a very good hitter with the 97 champion Florida Marlins. He's kind of fallen off at the plate the last couple of years as he started to get traded around. But this year, in 44 games with the White Sox, hit 10 home runs and 326. Had them all up since coming over from Baltimore. A 31 home run season in 304. Last year at Baltimore, 251. The year before with Florida and the Dodgers at 218. So he had been falling fast. Certainly regained a hitting stroke, and you know what kind of defense he has with the 4 Gold Gloves.
He's also been able to cover up that big hole that he had up and in. People talk about it being a hitter's kitchen. You could live in there with Charles Johnson. Big fastball on his hands. He just couldn't get to. The swing was too long. That one. And he told me before the first game that the way he was able to cover it up was by recognizing it, realizing that he cannot hit that pitch. Now that's the most difficult pitch for a right-handed pitcher to throw to a right-handed hitter. Paint that inside corner. Charles Johnson says if he does it 3 straight times, I got to tip my hat and give him credit. But if he makes a mistake and he's off the mark, then he better give me some credit.
Courtesy toss. Keep an eye on Singleton, who, as you point out, can run. He had 22 stolen bases. Durham led the team with 25. So Durham with 25, Singleton with 22. Told you Ordonez at 18, and Valentine at 19. Carlos Lee hit 13. White Sox stole 119 bases this year. They've stolen 4 in this series thus far.
Crowd's going to boo. They don't like that, but Lou Piniella has to like that. A-Rod's excited now that Abbott is recognizing it's a running situation. Give Wilson a chance. More times than not, he'll get the run.
That's a pitch out. 2-1. And here A-Rod and Wilson will talk it over with Abbott again.
You know, it's almost like Paul Abbott, with his back to the runner at first base, to me, doesn't recognize leads. That's not a very big lead by Singleton over there, and yet he's going over a couple of times. On the other hand, when Valentine went off, he had a lead all the way out to the cut of the grass. Some guys' peripheral vision is just more than others. Taking a peek back over your left shoulder. That's not a very big lead. See the cut of the grass? He's not out there to that yet. He's leaning a little bit, trying to get your attention, but he's not going anywhere.
Sawed off, and that's wide at first. You know, it's a nice, it's a nice view. I know, the postseason averages, what do they mean in Game 2 of a series? But if you're a batter like Charles Johnson, and you look up at the center field scoreboard as you dig in, and you see that hitting 750. It's just nice to see that up there in October. God, he's had a hell of a year, huh? 3 for 4.
Yeah, but make one out, it looks like you're in a heck of a slump.
Right. How about relief pitchers? Give up 2 runs in 1/3 inning. How's that ERA looking? Wilson does a nice job. Remember, Oliver was not handling a lot of those balls in the dirt yesterday.
You know, we both talked to Lou Piniella a lot before the game, but I didn't ask him the reason for that. I know that he has platooned Oliver and Wilson. He's been real happy with the job both of them have done all year, but Wilson's more of a defensive guy. Oliver, more offense.
He's going to play them both. I don't think he has a set plan. The thing he said is that Oliver would punt Garcia more. There goes the runner Singleton, but it doesn't matter. It's ball 4, and the White Sox are in business here in the 4th. Nobody up throwing. We saw the youngster Pinero earlier. Lou get somebody up right here, right now, Rick?
I don't think he will. I think he's pretty happy with the way Abbott's throwing the ball right now. Everything has been down for the most part. The base hit the start of the inning by Perry was hit on the ground. The ball was down, the location of his pitch. Got the ground ball off the bat of Singleton. Made some good pitches to Johnson there.
Ray Durham doubled and scored in the 1st. Does he punt? No. Now there is some action in the pen, we should say. It's one of the heroes yesterday by that 6 2/3 scoreless job. Jose Mesa, now a stalwart in the bullpen here in the postseason for the Mariners after yesterday's performance.
Turned him into a long man.
The way Durham's hitting, you wouldn't, with 1 out, square him, would you? Wide of first, foul ball.
This guy's really a special leadoff hitter for the Chicago White Sox. You just don't find that many good leadoff hitters in baseball anymore. Guys with speed, guys with the ability to hit the ball out of the park. Ricky Henderson was the guy that showed everybody you can get speed and power in that package.
Oh-2 count to Durham with 2 on. Up top for a ball. 3-2 Seattle, bottom of the 4th. White Sox led 1-0. Seattle led 2-1, tied 2-2. Buhner's homer made it 3-2 Mariners. Staying alive. Nubs went into his own dugout.
In 1999 spring training, manager Jerry Manuel really made Ray Durham his project. Not only from the neck down, but from the neck up, the confidence, the fearless type factor. Well, in 1999, he also made him an all-star by all the time and effort the manager put into the player.
Ooh, look at Abbott there. Wow. He thought Durham was gone.
Watch Wilson. He's waiting on the call. He's going, okay, all right, come on. I don't hear anything.
Sharply to McLemore, to A-Rod, to Olerud. Double play. Paul Abbott looking in at the plate saying where was the strike, but instead he gets the double play ball and the 1-run lead preserved. Top of the 5th, the Mariners lead the White Sox now on another nice day. It's developed here at Chicago, 3-2. Hey, tonight we dropped the puck, eh? The NHL season underway, and we give you wall-to-wall coverage. The Colorado Avalanche against the Dallas Stars as Patrick Roy needs 3 to tie their all-time win record of the great Detroit Red Wings netminder Terry Sawchuk. Stars and Avalanche, they meet almost all the time in the playoffs. Stars had the upper hand the last couple of years. Avalanche before. It's a great series. Roy and Forsberg, Sakic for Colorado. I love watching them. And McDonough and company with the Stars. Got you covered tonight with pucks at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 on the West Coast. And for all you hockey fans in Hawaii, that'll be 2 o'clock. Hockey fans in the Seattle Totems still, they still playing? Seattle Totems, do we? The Thunderbirds. See, I got to get up on my Seattle pucks. It's a 3-hour ride to see the Canucks up in Vancouver from Seattle. 2-1 as we begin with Rickey Henderson. His 56th postseason game. Champion with the A's in '89. Member of the Blue Jays in '93. People forget that. 32 steals in postseason. Postseason runs, although, you know, postseason records, you hate to really quote them because Mantle and Berra played so many less. You know, they only had the World Series. But nevertheless, that's the total of his runs. I hate quoting those records. But playing in 56 games is pretty impressive, and what a surprise. Rickey's been aboard 2 of the 3 times.
At this point in Rickey's career, though, for him to be effective, he's got to score runs because you're giving up some things defensively. He's not the Gold Glove left fielder that he was with the Oakland A's. He was able to score a run yesterday in his first at bat.
Here's a bunt by Mike Cameron, but it was a long way, and he didn't give himself much of a chance to get it on, but that wasn't the situation, really. It's fielded by Konerko over to Durham.
You mentioned earlier Lou Piniella managing the Cincinnati Reds to a World Series championship. That's the National League. There's a lot of sacrifice bunting over there. And that was a priority of Lou Piniella right off the bat in spring training. All right, we don't have Ken Griffey Jr. anymore. We're going to need to create some offense with the top of our lineup, and in particular the bottom of the lineup. A-Rod, Edgar, Olerud, they'll hit. The rest of you guys are going to have to learn to bunt. Well, that priority has paid off, and it proves it once again there.
So now a runner in scoring position with 1 out for Alex Rodriguez and perhaps Edgar Martinez. A-Rod is 4 for 7 this series. Lorenzo Barcelo is up in the White Sox pen. A pirouette by Soroka, who pitched pressure games in college, 91 and 93 at LSU, and that great program down there. College World Series champs. There's Barcelo.
You know, Barcelo almost threw a complete game yesterday in the first 3 innings with all of the trouble Parquet had. You look at the fact that he didn't pitch yesterday, you think he must be fresh. That's not true. Rickey Henderson always has a green light when he's on base. But Lou Piniella knew that with the left-hander Soroka on the mound, it's difficult to get a jump and steal second base. All right, I'll help you. I'll sacrifice you to second. But now, if you can get to third, the situation's perfect. You like having a right-handed hitter in there. It makes it a tougher throw for the catcher.
A-Rod way out ahead of that breaking ball. 1-2. Soroka.
A good changeup from Soroka here. And A-Rod will have to make an adjustment. Guys that hit 300 as A-Rod does, not only in the regular season but in postseason as well, don't make the same mistake twice. So if you're Soroka now, you realize he's going to adjust. He's going to stay back. Maybe that cutter on the inner half of the plate.
Well, Soroka certainly doesn't mind challenging the batters, Rick.
Yeah, but look at A-Rod's approach to this pitch right here. Is he staying back? Watch the head, how it stays down. Everything goes to the opposite field. All right, he's a little bit late on that fastball, but that ball was on the outer half. If you're late there, you're going to be even later on something on the inner half of the plate.
Inside, so he chops that into the White Sox dugout. Pete Soroka, you know, a lot of people don't know him as well, but 15-game winner this year, and 3rd best ERA in the league at 3.79. The best ERA among the left-handed starters.
He's so important to the White Sox hopes. 5-0 in his last 8 starts in the regular season.
There goes the runner Johnson. The throw, and it's not in time. So Rickey Henderson, postseason stolen base number 33. Rickey banged up at the bag. Larry Bowa taking a look at him. We have two all-timers, Johnson with the arm and Henderson with the legs.
But look at where Johnson's sitting. That tells Ricky Henderson that if it's a fastball away, A-Rod will protect me. If it's that changeup, that's the pitch I want to run on. Well, it was the changeup. Johnson had to wait for the ball to get to him. Then you saw him had to back up to get away from A-Rod to make that throw. And even though Ricky Henderson not as fast as he once was, he's still fast enough to beat that throw. It took the perfect pitch and the perfect situation with the right-handed hitter there to get him safe on that. But give Ricky credit for picking that situation to go on.
Now he changes a lot of things. A fly ball gives the Mariners a one-run lead. The infield comes in, not all the way in, but halfway in. Here's a slow roller. Perry looks home, but goes across the Konerko, and Henderson has worked his way around the bases, and the Mariners lead at 4-2. The walk, the sacrifice, the stolen base, and the infield chopper. LO National League ball, 2-run lead.
Ricky Henderson shows you why he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer with exactly what you said, Boomer. Now watch the jump right there. Okay, it's on the ground. It's a high chopper. It's going to bounce one more time. I know I can get there. Perry knows he can get there. A-Rod says thanks for the RBI.
We'll see if Ricky is banged up. Do you think he had a play at the plate? I think he had a shot at it, although it's a big gamble.
I don't think he did. If it's on AstroTurf, maybe, because the game's a little bit quicker there. Perry knew he would get a good hop and maybe be able to make that throw, but you take a chance on opening up a big inning.
Edgar Martinez tries to make this a big inning. Back goes Ordonez, back, and he makes the catch. Edgar with a bid for his second homer in this series, but Ricky has made that number 4. The Mariners have played, well, a Ricky rally into a 4-2 lead here in the bottom of the 5th. And you want to see some, look at this. Look at Ricky and Ray and Durham like, okay, I got you. Ricky almost like a hunter saying, here I go, safe. And it looked like he jammed the wrist on that play. That's a great shot, fellas. And he's out of the game now as a result of that. But Ricky has, you know, leads off the game with a single, makes that run all on his own. And he has more than done his job. And Raul Ibanez has gone into left field in place of Ricky Henderson. Ibanez yesterday came in to pinch run and then stayed in for Jay Buhner, was 1 for 2, and had the big 2-run double on Sunday to help the Mariners beat Anaheim in that final game. Jose Valentin to right, Buhner in. Jay makes the catch. There's 1 out. Here's Frank Thomas, 0 for 5 in the series. Rick.
Talked about that swing just being a little bit long. Look at the hittable pitches that Frank gets. All right, there's 1. All right, he lays off that one. Now look at this. Oh, my goodness. Look at his balance, too. He's almost coming undone on that swing. You can see just a lot of movement that's not typical of Frank Thomas.
We didn't think that he would be the one. I know it's only midway through the second game, but he would be the one more than the youngsters pressing. Do you think he's pressing? I mean, 0-5 doesn't mean a slump. It's just magnified because it's right here. Do you think he's pressing?
You know what? Everybody presses. I mean, everybody wants to do something. But Frank, I think more than anybody, wants to impress people. This club has played so well all year long. They got off to a great start in the month of April. 181 runs scored as a team. Broke the all-time Major League record. Frank wanting to be the guy that gets them going here in the second season. Now the postseason has started. So far, just not able to do that.
Three and 1 to Thomas. Frank has popped up to short left, popped up to third. 3 pop-ups yesterday as well, in addition to 2 walks. Pops a foul.
I've never seen him foul off this many pitches in the last couple of days. Hitting's all about timing. Hitters will talk about how they see the baseball so well, they pick it up. Clearly, Frank is just not picking up the rotation. He's not seeing the baseball now, as most of the time he does.
You pointed out to the viewers yesterday, Rick, that Galarraga type Tony Batista stance. Oh, he gets under it. Does it have enough juice? To left field, Ibanez is back. No, it does not. He's just hitting the bottom part of the ball. That's the best hit ball that he's had. But yet 0 for 6 thus far for the big hurt. 2 out.
You know, I think, too, when I look down that line at the dimensions of 347, where is this ball in some of the smaller ballparks? It's a souvenir. It's a home run. And it might have got Frank Thomas off and running. I know that a lot of hitters, when they leave this ballpark, have a lot more respect for the offensive numbers that Frank has put up in his career, because this park has not helped him.
Meanwhile, the White Sox had 2 doubles to start the game. Maglio Ordonez, 2 walks and a stolen base. Rips one that's gloved by David Bell. And a 1-2-3 inning for Paul Abbott, who survived the first. And you know what? He's given Lou Piniella and the Mariners exactly what they'd hoped for. A 4-2 lead through 5. Top of the 6th, Chris Berman and Rick Sutcliffe with you here at Comiskey Park in Chicago. And the Mariners lead 4-2. And we're going to wait 5-6 innings to just give you this one to chew on. In best of 5 series, the history of Major League Baseball, obviously most of them more recent history, teams that have started out 0-2 at home, 0-2 at home, 0-14 in the series. So those are strong numbers facing the White Sox right now, as John Olerud fouls this one out. 0-2 at home, not 0-2 anywhere. Lose your first 2 home games and you don't come back to win it. Now, there's always a first time. And this game is far from being over, of course, but just chew on that number. John Olerud, will this fall into fair? Yes, it does. Olerud, a little plunker. And he's on base for the 2nd time today. Hit by pitch and a single. Baseball tomorrow, we got the single game. The late game in the afternoon is 4 Eastern, 3 Central, 2 Mountain, 1 on the West Coast. Braves and Cards, pair of 20-game winners. Tommy Glavine, Darryl Kyle, John Miller, Joe Morgan bring you that game from St. Louis. Then Fox tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Al Leiter and the Mets against Sean Estes and the Giants. That's tomorrow baseball. And we should tell you that we will have game 3 of this series from Safeco Field, the first ever postseason game at New Safeco Field. That'll be at 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific on Friday. Aaron Seeley going for Seattle. Charles Johnson goes to second, and they turn it. Improbable double play. Wow! A sacrifice bunt turns into an explosive defensive play for the White Sox.
That's because Charles Johnson is a weapon defensively behind home plate. Look how quick he gets out. Look at the mask off. He knows that even if the throw is not in time at second, he's still got time to get Jay Buhner at first base. The throw was in time, and he picks his pitcher up big time with the double play. Lou Piniella wanting to just continue to add offense, continue to put pressure on Soroka and the infield defense. And you know what? Charles Johnson just took that pressure off of him.
3rd double play by the supposedly not good fielding White Sox. Now I got to tell you this as David Bell steps in. How many times in his career has Jay Buhner been asked to bunt?
You know what? I saw him on the on-deck circle, though, after Olerud's base hit, look back to Lou Piniella as if to say, hey, I'll bunt if you want. It doesn't matter. He did what he was supposed to do. He deadened the ball. He got it down, but he just didn't get it far enough away from Charles Johnson.
That was just a gimme putt. He needed to lag it a little more. So David Bell is up. As Buhner thinks about it, count is 2-1. And what a thrill for the Bell family. Yesterday, David, in the postseason, the youngster, his father, one of our friends, one of our favorite people, and one of the great players of the past generation, Buddy Bell, manager of the Rockies, ripped by David to left field, and that's a sharp base that he's been hitting very well. His second hit of the day. 2 sharp singles. But just to finish the Bell story, as Charles Johnson, now how big is that play that he made as he goes out to the mound, and we have a pitching change. Buddy Bell in 18 years never played a postseason game. What a thrill it was to watch his son play. I'm sure yesterday they had a nice talk afterwards. Grandpa Gus Bell played in the 61 series. And that is it for Mike Soroka. He'll leave here in the 6th with his club trailing 4-2. Pitching change for the White Sox. They trail the Mariners 4-2 here in the 6th, despite the brilliance of Charles Johnson on Jay Buhner. It was just too short a bunt. And look at Johnson, Valentin, and the double play, the third of the day. We asked how many times Jay Buhner been asked to bunt. Rick, he had one this year. That was his second since 1995. So this is not exactly something he does a lot.
I think Lou Piniella might have been even a little bit surprised that Jay Buhner laid down that bunt. It might have been something that he just did on his own. Piniella looked at Larry Boa, the third base coach, after the double play as if to say, what's that? What happened? And he's going down there to check with his veteran to see what happened.
What happened is that the reliever is Lorenzo Barcelo, and Dan Wilson hits it to left. Getting closer to that hit, but not quite. So one pitch by Barcelo. We'll talk about him next inning. The young 23-year-old comes in and gets the job done. It's a 4-2 lead heading to the bottom of the 6th. Bottom of the 6th in Chicago. The White Sox trailing the Mariners 4-2. Carlos Lee actually showing bunt after his sac fly his last time up to Buhner right to the fence and right. Pulls it back. It's ball 1. Chris Berman, Rick Sutcliffe, so glad you could be with us here. That game yesterday was one of the most fun that we've ever seen. Lee gets under this one. Raul Ibanez in left for Henderson a couple innings ago. Makes the catch, and there's one out. Well, after we're done here, we go to Pac Bell Park for the first ever playoff game there. And Dusty Baker, San Francisco Giants. There's Jeff Kent, could be the MVP. Dusty and the Giants win 97 games. Host in all of baseball. They're hosting the New York Mets. That's the next game with John and Joe. Now let's see. Game 2 is tomorrow in San Francisco. We have a day off.
I wonder what you're going to do.
We're going to the West Coast Friday. Any thoughts? You want to be your own Swami and predict where I might go?
I know where you're going.
Just the thought that you might have to make a left on the way to Seattle tomorrow.
Well, I tell you, the thought that Paul Abbott has put in the minds of the hitters for the Chicago White Sox is the fact that he's not afraid to come in. 2 outs in the bottom of the 2nd inning. He drilled Charles Johnson a fastball up and in. First pitch here in the bottom of the 6th. Same thing. Fastball up and in to Carlos Lee. Get him off the plate and then get him out of the way.
Arthur Thunder Rhodes, one of the relievers yesterday that was just spotless in 6 2/3. The lefty with lots of pop, which you can hear right there. Listen. Up. Listen when he comes in the game, if he does. Paul Konerko up. And he skies it. Boy, Paul Abbott is just getting better and better. A-Rod makes the play, and there's 2 outs, and that's 6 straight retired by Abbott. As we have 2 outs in the 6th, and we don't just send guys up there. It's the Budweiser blimp. The Bud 1 airship flying overhead today to bring you these beautiful live shots. We thank everybody up there. The best seat in the house. Budweiser, the official beer of Major League Baseball. I was doing well there until I got fired by the frogs and the lizards on those plugouts.
You were replaced?
It cost less. The lizards, they don't bring their agent and everything. Whoops. Herbert Perry, 1 for 2. He's hit the ball well. He's played very well considering his hammy has a hit in each of the games. How about Lou Piniella coming into this series and starting 2 9-game winners on the road, possibly coming away with 2 wins.
It's all about knowing your personnel. I can see starting Freddie Garcia yesterday. He won 17 games last year. Had he been healthy, he would have had a lot more wins this year. But Paul Abbott tells you right there, Lou Piniella knows his personnel.
Perry swings to it. Count is 1-2. We mentioned that, had 5 years between major league appearances between 93 and 98 for Paul Abbott. Now at the age of 33, pitching in the biggest game of his life, and he has delivered.
Mariners are the only pitching staff coming into the season that had 3 guys with Cy Young Award of votes last year. Aaron Seeley with Texas, Moyer, Garcia picking up votes. Paul Abbott didn't get any, but he's pitching well today. See, that's that command on that outside corner. Had he been able to throw that pitch in the zone, he knew he had to strike out. But it was set up by all of the things he's done on the inner half.
Abbott pitched in his previous life, if you will, was a member of the 91 Minnesota Twins. Didn't play in the postseason, but played on the World Championship team there with Puck and Herbeck, and that's a fair ball by Herbert. Perry's going to try and get it to second, and he should get there no problem, as Ibanez has to dodge a balloon and then come up with the baseball. He said he'd been ripping it up. People wonder, well, why would you keep him on the roster? He can't even move. He hadn't hurt them at all, not the way he's swinging the bat, his 3rd hit.
What do you do now if you're Jerry Manuel, though? He's probably not going to be able to score on a base hit with 2 outs. You need that run. You need to get closer. Do you pinch run for him? We'll see what Jerry Manuel does. We know what Lou Piniella is going to do now.
Lou Piniella is going to go to Arthur Rhodes to pitch to Chris Singleton. And a job well done for Paul Abbott. Pitching in the biggest game of his life, he has the lead. Paul Abbott can win it, he cannot lose it, and he's given the Mariners a great chance as he has pitched 5 2/3 of 2-run baseball, only 1 of them earned. The runner at second base is his, and now Paul Abbott as Perry there has turned it over to Arthur Rhodes. Arthur Thunder Rhodes, a little early for him to come in here, but with Singleton, of course, due up. The lefty Rhodes comes in. Singleton, the lefty, will sit. And now it's a situation where it's, hey, Abbott. Paul is out, and Jeff Abbott is the pinch hitter, the righty.
You're right, Boomer. It's a little bit early for Arthur Rhodes, but I see Lou Piniella right now wanting to go for the juggler. He said, I got a chance to sweep this series. I'm going to turn things up a little bit. Arthur Rhodes, normally a 7th or 8th inning type guy, getting called on to do a little bit more. He was called on yesterday. Came in and was able to get a couple of outs. Only 5 pitches needed from Arthur Rhodes, so certainly going to be at 100% for the ball game this afternoon.
28-year-old Jeff Abbott, role player, played 80 games with the White Sox this season, is a big role now. As you mentioned, what kind of hit? Admittedly, there are 2 outs. But let's see what Perry can do on the base paths if it is one of those singles. That's a move that Jerry Manuel chose not to make. Figuring Perry's going to have another swing of the bat. He's been swinging it well.
Well, if Abbott hits the ball out of the park, it doesn't matter. If he makes an out, it doesn't matter. If it's an extra base hit, it won't matter. But if he gets a base hit, it's all about decisions. I remember a long time ago, Walter Alston, the manager of the Dodgers, telling me that in a 1-run ball game, one manager or another has something to do with it. 2- or 3-run game, it's usually a pitcher. 4 runs or more, obviously offensively, somebody went off.
Now, as I look at the outfield, and Rhodes falls behind 2-1, I'm really looking in the left field at Ibanez. He seems pretty deep for a guy that's hit only 3 home runs. The wind's not going that way. I mean, it's almost as if they're not playing for the play at the plate, which that surprises me a little bit. Does it you?
Well, they'll be charging that ball hard if it's hit at them for a play at the plate, because they know what's there at second base. You got a young Ricky Henderson there. You don't even consider it.
2-2. Pitch hitter Abbott to center field in the air. Mike Cameron is there, and the White Sox stymied again. Team that scored more runs than anyone else just has 2 through 6 innings.
ESPN's presentation of the divisional series is brought to you by Claritin brand of Loratadine tablets, official sponsor of Major League Baseball.
A quiet Comiskey Park as we move to the 7th inning. White Sox fans know that their team is running out of time. 4-2 Seattle. Game 1, runners in scoring position. The Sox, Rick Sutcliffe, 2 for 14. Today, 1 for 7. He added up 3 for 21, 143. That's not the lineup that accounted for 978 runs this year. As we begin 7th inning, Lorenzo Barcelo had 1 pitch in the 6th. He's there. And Jeff Abbott, who batted for Chris Singleton, stays in center field, batting in the 8th hole. Lorenzo Barcelo pitching to Mark McLemore. Barcelo won, along with Folk and Howery, one of the 6 youngsters out of the Giants minor league system that came over in that 97 trade that sent Hernandez and Wilson Alvarez, Danny Darwin over to San Francisco, helped them win a pennant. Now 3 relievers are here to help the White Sox win a pennant and hopefully advance, as the count is 2-2. And he's a pretty big guy from San Pedro de Macorís, the home of shortstops, 6'4", 220.
He was really considered the jewel in that white flag we give up trade, or seemingly, for the White Sox. But look at the returns they have now. Pete Folk, Bobby Howery, still got a good young shortstop, and Mike Caruso. We talk about the Chicago White Sox and all the runs that they scored. They have not been able to do what they have done during the course of the year. Boomer, you just mentioned 143 with runners in scoring position. They hit over 300 in those situations during the regular season. But the Mariners have done what they have done all year, and that's get on base.
McLemore hit pretty well to center field. New guy in the game. The ball always finds you, but Jeff Abbott is there, and there's 1 out. Our Panasonic in-game box score for the Mariners, Ricky Henderson, while he was in, he's out of there at the top. Singled and walked and invented a run himself. The big guys all getting at least 1 hit, 3, 4, 5, continuing what they did yesterday. David Bell has impressed, hitting 2 sharp singles. So the Mariners, 4 runs on 7 hits. But as you saw, they've had a runner, at least 1 run around every inning. Ricky is back on the bench, having his wrist attended to on the stolen base at 3rd. Ground ball to 2nd. Ray Durham over to Konerko, and Raul Ibanez is gone. And look who's here. Yesterday we had the commissioner. Today on the right, the chief operating officer, Major League Baseball, number 2 man, Paul Beeston. To the left is our boss, a great friend of all of ours, George Bodenheimer, the president of ESPN. Great guy. George and I have been together from the start, 20 years. And in the middle, that guy's everywhere, isn't he, Tigger? Isn't he?
Well, he's got a reason to be. He's got family here. His daughter, Karen, married to Jamie Moyer.
There's 3 pretty good guys there. I'd like to be a fly on the wall with that trio, you know? Glad they're enjoying it. Good to get George out and watching a game. In that office too long, George. Mike Cameron. Ground ball handled by Valentin, and for the first time today, the Mariners do not get a base runner. 7th inning stretch time in Chicago. The home folks need a rally. Seventh inning stretch time here in Chicago, and as our good friend, the Hawk, Ken Harrelson, who we've enjoyed listening to all year doing the White Sox games with Darren Jackson. Well, they can't stop it here, can they, these White Sox fans? But as the Hawk would say, he's looking for the White Sox to put him on the board. Haven't been a lot of that yet. I love the Hawk.
He's got that passion, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. That's all he asks. Played with passion, he broadcast with passion. Swinging at the first pitch, a little fister by Charles Johnson. McLemore is out to make the play. 1 up and 1 down. We get set to go to Pac Bell Park after we're done here. Mike Hampton. Mets started with Hampton and Leiter, the lefties, and Hampton, of course, hoping he can help himself at the plate, too. Mike Hampton against He Shall Be Olivon Hernandez. 1 West Coast, 4 East Coast, 3 Central, 2 Mountain. And, of course, that's 10 a.m. Hawaiian.
I think that's going to be a great series.
Tremendous.
This could be a great series if the White Sox could get their heart of the lineup going. Yesterday, their 3, 4, 5, and 6 hitters were 2 for 17. This afternoon, same story, 0 for 9. Durham has done his job.
Sure has.
Valentin's done his job. Charles Johnson
And Herbert Perry, they've done their jobs. That's not the heart of the lineup, as you point out. Durham is 1 for 3, doubled to lead off the first, and scored when Valentin doubled. White Sox led 1-0, had runners at the corners with 1 out, but Lee and Konerko could not deliver. And even Frank Thomas could not deliver with 1 runner on in that inning. So they had a chance to get Abbott out, maybe. Seattle in big trouble. As they did yesterday, Rick, when they led 4-3, they had a chance to put Seattle really on the ropes. They didn't do it. Mariners hung around, won the game in the 10th. Jerry Manuel has preached patience, but you're running out of patience and running out of time. Durham trying to get his way on at 3-1 so the bigger thunder can come. Although Durham with a homer and double, he's been the biggest thunderers they've had.
That's some big league heat right there.
Well, Arthur can do that. He throws in the upper 90s.
His velocity has gotten better since he became a reliever. He was in the low 90s as a starter. As you said, upper 90s now that he's a reliever.
And Durham has done what he's supposed to do. Get on. Our Panasonic in-game box score, the top of the order, has done their job. Durham and Valentin, as you point out. But look at those goose eggs, Rick. 3, 4, 5, 6. Yikes.
Well, the biggest one is that 0 for 3. He is the guy that has got to set the tone. A base hit for Frank Thomas will do a lot for his confidence. It will also do a lot for the momentum and the chemistry that's in that dugout, or lacking in the dugout, for the White Sox now.
Here's a Valentin.
You know, Lou said in the paper this morning that they have a certain way they want to pitch to Frank Thomas. But it's more about Frank Thomas than it is the way they're pitching him. He's getting pitches to hit. He's just missing them right now.
Valentin 2 for 3, a run scored, an RBI, 3 hits in the series, strike 1 from Arthur Rhodes. The big hurt in the on-deck circle, and that, you know, that thing that he has in his hands is a piece of steel from the old Comiskey Park, which is right across the street from here. He was here when the last gasp of that old yard. And he wanted to make sure that he brought part of it across the street with him. That's his on-deck weapon. There's some heat there. Look at that thing. That held the whole park together. Do you know that, Rick? That one piece of steel held all of Comiskey together for almost 100 years. Believe that? I have some land in the Everglades for you.
That shows you how hard Arthur Rhodes is throwing right now. He threw the 3-1 fastball right past Ray Durham. Fortunately for Durham, the next pitch was out of the zone. The count 0-2. Jose Valentin saying, all right, I'm having trouble hitting you. Maybe I can lay a bunt down.
Top 2-2. Valentin and Thomas, then Ordonez. Valentin, the potential tying run. Shortstop that hit 25 regular season home runs. Count remains at 2-2.
Durham would like to distract Arthur Rhodes a little bit, possibly get Valentin something good to hit in this situation, but you cannot try to steal second base here if you're not positive you can make it. You got to try to get Frank Thomas to home plate here in the bottom of the 7th and see if he can't get something going.
Different pitch.
Different pitch and a very hittable pitch. Durham giving him some head looks like I might go, I might go. Now look at the location of that breaking ball. Because of the fact Durham might go, as a pitcher, you try to get quicker to home plate. Well, when you get quicker and long with your stride, your arm gets caught behind and you're not able to get the ball down. Well, he got away with another pitch. Not so much Arthur Rhodes, but Abbott got away with some pitches earlier in the game.
Just missed, and now the count is full. Crowd waiting for that opportunity to get in it, and here they are. 45,383. The 4th largest in the history of this new Comiskey. On their feet. Nothing like a courtesy toss to make 45,000 people boo. Ball 4, tying run aboard, and here comes Frank Thomas.
There's one that got away from him, Boomer. He had him 0-2. He threw up the white flag. I surrender. I'm going to try to bunt, that being Jose Valentin. Arthur Rhodes could not locate the fastball after that. And now Lou Piniella with one of those decisions nobody likes to make, but he has to make.
Well, he's going to take the slow walk out because Rhodes versus Thomas is power versus power. One thing you could certainly count on Frank is he could time out a dead fastball. And wouldn't you know it, who's coming in but Jose Mesa to face Frank Thomas. Ooh, this is getting good. Bottom of the 7th inning, 2 on for the big hurt Frank Thomas, hitless thus far in this series. Yesterday, Lou Piniella in the 9th inning brought on Jose Mesa to face Thomas. He got to 2 balls, then said, "Aw, shucks." It ended up being an intentional walk, and then got Maglio Ordonez to fly out to right. The Mariners got 3 in the 10th, hence Mesa won yesterday after walking Thomas and getting Ordonez. Now, with the tying runs aboard, it's Mesa against Thomas again. And this is why you came right now.
Frank Thomas, the MVP of the league in '93 and '94. we're still looking for an MVP of this series. And if it's going to be Frank Thomas, he might want to start something now.
Jose Mesa, all-star closer, but then could not hold the lead in the 9th inning of Game 7 of the 97 series for Cleveland against Florida, and then he made a left-hand turn in his career. Revived some in Seattle. Here he is against Frank Thomas with ball 1. Big fella against big fella. .39 comeback wins by the White Sox this year of their 95, over 40%. Hit to center, but room for Mike Cameron. Durham will tag and move to third. Valentin stays at first, so Frank getting a little better bat on the ball, but still no hits.
Jose Mesa might not be the closer for the 9th inning anymore, but his velocity has not gone down any. This guy still throws in the mid to high 90s. He can challenge anybody. He challenged Frank Thomas right there. Once again, a very hittable pitch. Something that a lot of guys can't get away with Frank Thomas at home plate. But so far, the Seattle Mariners have gotten away with a lot of those.
Now the very tough Maglio Ordonez, who he retired yesterday in the 9th. Ball 1. Ordonez has walked twice and grounded to third.
Ordonez not making the same mistake that he made yesterday, though, by swinging at that first pitch. Take a look at 1. He's a confident hitter. He's patient enough. He's got plate coverage. See the release point. See where the baseball's coming from, and then get one you like.
He's down and in, 2-0.
The speed of Jose Valentin has Mesa's attention divided right now. He'd like to go to that big high leg kick and get all of his body to help that velocity, but he can't. Valentin would steal second base, and the tying run would be in scoring position. So it's a slide step that Mesa has to go to.
Up the middle off the glove of Mesa. Oh, McLemore! What a play by McLemore! Mesa deflects it just enough. McLemore to Rodriguez, and the Mariners snuff it out. A bang-bang play at second base, retiring Jose Valentin on a ball deflected by Jose Mesa, and a circus play by Mark McLemore, and this was close.
They catch a big break right here, that being the Seattle Mariners. If Mesa doesn't get a piece of it, it's into center field. But now look what happened right here. There's the throw. The call by second base umpire Mike Winters says that he's out, but Mike was really blocked with the toss right here. He did not see when the ball. Watch this right here. Look where Mike Winters is right there. There he is over here in the corner. He can't see when A-Rod got that ball. A-Rod caught the ball behind him, and actually Jose Valentin's foot got to the bag before the ball got to the glove of A-Rod.
Nevertheless, an unbelievable play by McLemore on a ball deflected. I mean, that's unbelievable reflexes.
How about A-Rod taking that first pitch right there? He says, well, this is too soon for an at-bat. I got to catch my breath.
Right. Chopper. Perry plays it smartly on the shortstop over to Konerko. And A-Rod is 1 for 4 today. How about the pitching and defense? Now, this is what the Mariners have talked about reincarnating themselves. We haven't seen overall brilliant defense by them in the 2 games, but that was an unbelievable play. The bullpen continues. Rhodes and Mesa to put goose eggs up there. The solo home runs, you know, by Buhner, the little Ricky run, National League type. It's a different Mariner team, but it's a winning Mariner team.
Everybody talks about batting averages, home runs. I think that on-base percentage should be talked about a little bit more. And that's another strength of this Seattle Mariner ball club. The offensive numbers of Chicago jump out at you. But the Seattle Mariners were second in the American League this year as far as on-base percentage is concerned for their team. They keep putting pressure on you.
3-0 to Edgar Martinez. Edgar doubled and scored in the second, driven in by David Bell's singles. 1 for 3 today. To the hitting machine. 3 hits. 3 for 8 in the series. Barcelo will walk Edgar Martinez. And the Mets and Giants coming up from San Francisco. Barry U.S. Bonds passing Lou Gehrig on the home run charts. Just shy of 500 for his career. Can he have a postseason which you'll want to remember? Unlike his others in Pittsburgh, that game will be seen on ESPN2 to start and then move over to ESPN after this one is done. Barcelo was done. Kelly Wunsch coming in. 4-2 Seattle. Top 8 in Chicago. 4-2 Mariners. White Sox running out of time. And they need to keep this at just a 2-run deficit. So in, pitch yesterday in, is left-hander Kelly Wunsch. Submarine from the left side. Face the lefty John Olerud with Martinez at first, 1 out. Looking ahead to the Chicago 8th, Lee, Konerko, and Perry, 5, 6, 7. See John 2 hits in this series, playing for his native team. Grew up a legendary baseball player in the state of Washington State, where he's both a great hitter and pitcher. Played, of course, the world champions in Toronto with the Mets. And now he's playing for a team that said he didn't give a huge thought to. He thought it would be really neat at some point to play for the Mariners. But when he didn't start that way, well, I guess not. Come home and made an impact. Certainly did yesterday with that home run. That was a bomb. 418, I think.
He jumped right on Keith Falk after he gave up the homer, made the mistake to Edgar Martinez. He didn't wait. He got that first pitch, gave him a little bit more insurance.
Of course, he finds the shadows. Who knows what evil lurks? White Sox fans are saying the shadows do. Olerud signed twice by Pat Gillick, huh? Toronto, Seattle. 1's an accident, 2's a trend. I think they like each other. Broken bat. Valentine to Durham. Can they turn this? Not quite. Yeah, it's funny. Yesterday, a double play ball that Olerud just beat out resulted in a run early in the game. We'll see if this is the same sort of thing. That's a tough one to turn, Rick.
Well, what a great effort by Valentine and Durham here. They turned 190 double plays during the regular season. That was most in the American League. And that's as quick as you can get the ball down there to first base. You know the runner's going to be right on top of you. But Olerud got his foot on top of the base before the ball got to the glove.
So the path continues for Jerry Manuel. Wunsch comes in to get the lefty Olerud. The wheels continue to spin here at Comiskey, with Jay Buhner coming up to face Seamus. 4-2 Mariners. Jay Buhner, whose home run in the 4th inning gave the Seattle Mariners a 3-2 lead. They now extended to 4-2 on the ground out by Rodriguez in the 5th. The White Sox cannot afford to give up any more, as good a hitting club as they are. And Seamus came in yesterday to pitch a 1/3 of an inning, 6 pitches, so he too is in. And very quickly, all those pitchers used yesterday by Jerry Manuel. 5 guys out of the pen. Now he's used 3.
Not only has Jay Buhner been important to the Seattle Mariners today, but he has been during the course of the season. He was on the disabled list. He missed 12 games During those 12 games, the Mariners were 4-8 this year. I had to laugh a little bit, though. I mean, look at Jay Buhner. Big, strong, tough guy. The injury was a sprained right wrist and pinky. His pinky was sore.
Come on.
See what it's doing.
Gets under this one. Valentin drifting out. Carlos Lee coming in, and Valentin calls for it. Makes the play. Well, the White Sox bullpen does its job. Lee, Konerko, and Perry to try and do something about this deficit. And changes for Lou Piniella's Seattle Mariners, leading 4-2 in the bottom of the 8th. Stan Javier in the game in left field, will bat in the 8th hole. That's the catcher spot. Raul Ibanez, who's been in, goes from left to right, and Joe Oliver comes in the game, replacing Dan Wilson, but he hits in Buhner's spot, the 6th spot. As Jose Mesa now begins against 301 hitting Carlos Lee. 8 innings of scoreless 3-hit relief by the Mariners in the 2 games thus far. Long throw for A-Rod among the hot dog wrapper, and he makes the toss. He's gone. Mike Piazza and the Mets take on the Giants in Game 1 of that National League Division Series. That should be a great one. That will begin on ESPN2 in about 5 or 6 minutes. And then when we're done here, that game will shift back over to ESPN. So you won't miss a pitch. And hopefully you have the PIP picture-in-picture. You can watch both games at the same time. I'm still learning how to work that stuff, you know. Paul Konerko, 0 for 3. In there for a strike.
Jose Mesa was a guy you wondered if Lou Piniella was even going to use during the postseason with the trouble he's had in the past. Well, not only has he used him, he's used him in crucial situations, and Mesa has performed.
Well, to reiterate something we said at the beginning of the game, everyone rolled their eyes when he brought Mesa in to pitch in the 9th against Frank Thomas and Ordonez. Now that Lou Piniella, he knew he would be vilified if it didn't work. He says, I now have another guy in the pen.
He had Arthur Rhodes. Arthur Rhodes had only thrown 5 pitches, had gotten the first 2 guys out, but he made the move anyway.
Talk about knowing your personnel. Well, Lou Piniella certainly does it, much like Dusty Baker of the San Francisco Giants. And closer extraordinaire, Kazu Sasaki, Japan, 32 years of age, came in to nail it down yesterday. Will we see him in the 9th? We certainly would guess so, and maybe in the 8th if Mesa gets in trouble. Did that ball have some pop on it or what? Konerko strikes out looking. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Commissioner of Baseball, and maybe even the COO, Paul Beeston, as well. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. The accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent. Log on to MajorLeagueBaseball.com for the most complete baseball coverage on the internet. Commissioner with us yesterday, Paul Beeston with us today. They could have read the cards. I had Paul up here to do that. Herbert Perry, he's hit the ball well. Single, doubled in 3 trips. Fouls it off. That patience that the White Sox were preaching is coming desperation a little bit, huh? After the 3rd inning, 2 games, no runs.
We knew they were banged up as far as their starting rotation was concerned coming into this series, but the rotation has been fine. Soroka was okay when you think about the offense normally provided by the White Sox. Parquet settled down yesterday and pitched well enough to win.
Well, if you average 6 runs a game, you give up 4 through 9 innings in Game 1, 4 through 8 innings in Game 2, you're going to like your chances. So far, no good for the White Sox, who are looking for their first series win in postseason since 1917.
Well, it's pretty simple. The bullpen of the Seattle Mariners has just been better. They had the lead yesterday in the 7th, but Mariners came back and got a run off Bobby Howard. And then they got the lead and the win off Keith Bulk.
Jose Mesa looking like we haven't seen him since he was an Indian a few years ago. The White Sox are down to 1 at bat, trailing 4-2. Jeff Kent of the Giants hosting the New York Mets. That game getting underway as we speak. John Miller, Joe Morgan. You can catch the beginning of that on ESPN2 right now. We stay here on ESPN for the 9th inning. The Mariners and the White Sox. Eerie silence over 45,000 plus at Comiskey, as they know their White Sox, who scored so much, more than any other team in baseball this year, has been stymied by a pair of, not so much a pair of 9-game winners, although Paul Abbott was tremendous and would win this, but the Mariners bullpen, Jose Mesa and company, just befuddling the White Sox hitters. David Bell, Stan Javier hitting in the 8th spot, and Mark McLemore against Bill Seamus. Looking to the White Sox 9th, 8-9-1. Abbott, Johnson, Durham. They'll be facing Kazuhiro Sasaki. We anticipate he'll be walking right in.
I don't think there's any question. I don't care if they score 5 runs here. I think Piniella would still go with Sasaki. You got the off day tomorrow. Who cares if you get a save as far as the numbers are concerned? It's still a victory. And it was exactly what Seattle would like to have today. Boy, what a job Lou Piniella has done with his personnel. Walking out to talk to the first base runner yesterday.
That was great.
I don't think I've ever seen that. Pulls him aside. He said, I want you to go.
Said he's done it one other time that he can remember. He asked him if Billy Martin ever did. He said he thought so once. He wasn't sure. Bell is gone. 1 out here in the 9th. Again, our thanks to Bud One Airship. Aerial coverage from high above, courtesy of our friends there. Delivered fresh daily from a brewery near you. Budweiser, the official beer of Major League Baseball. We repeat these numbers of teams in best-of-5 series that have lost their first 2 home games. 0-14 in the series. That's what's staring the White Sox if they don't rally here in the 9th. Who's to say that they won't?
But they're also looking at having lost their last 9 straight postseason games at home, that being the White Sox. Back in '93, they lost games 1, 2, and 6 to Toronto.
So it doesn't matter what stadium, which Comiskey, huh? And how about the potential AL West after Seattle finished their win over the Yankees and lost to Cleveland in '95? Postseason AL West 2-12. If the Mariners win here, 3-0 this year. With Oakland winning last night and Seattle potentially going up 2-0. Balance, power, axis shift from one coast to another. Javier struck out by Seamus.
The crowd's trying to get into it, but it's going to have to be the offense that gets them up and out of their seats. The offense just hasn't existed after the 3rd inning, though. Had a good pitch by Seamus. Did a nice job yesterday, doing a nice job once again, but somebody has got to do something. That's what they were saying during batting practice. Well, they're doing it the first couple of innings of the game, and then they're not.
The Mariners, 5 years to the day after that game 2 of that monster 15-inning game in New York, won by Laritz's homer that they lost, trying to come back with a huge win in Chicago to give them a 2-0 lead over, I gotta say at this moment, Rick, the stunned White Sox. Stunned.
Lou Piniella said that you just can't give enough credit to experience, and they have that. McLemore's been to the postseason now 4 times. Olerud 4 times. It's the 3rd time for Edgar and A-Rod. Joe Oliver has been there, as has their manager, Lou Piniella.
Ricky Henderson's been there 8,000 times. For the White Sox, except for Frank, Charles Johnson, Harold Baines. Not a lot. Fisted by McLemore. Long run for Valentine. Perry can't get there with the hamstring, and neither can Carlos Lee. So McLemore stays alive. 3-2.
I know we've talked about the other games coming up, but I got a feeling you don't want to go anywhere. This thing might not be over. I know Sasaki's tough. These White Sox have just been too good all year not to give their fans something to remember this season by if this series is not going to come back for Game 5.
It's hard to believe. You're right. It's hard to believe they would go this quietly. McLemore works his way on, and that'll bring up Raul Ibanez.
That is one of the intangibles of Mark McLemore, a guy that has always played the game with the name on the front of the jersey, not the back. Right when the crowd wants to get into it. You know, here's Sema strikes out a couple of guys. They're ready to go. Get that third out. Let's go to work. McLemore works, get the base on balls. Now the manager has to come out and make a move.
Jerry Manuel has made another move. It's going to be Mark Buehrle, second-year man, coming in, running in. We'll be back. Mark Buehrle on to try to get this third out of the ninth, keep this a 4-2 game, and give the White Sox bats a chance for a little thunder in the bottom of the ninth.
Buehrle with a fine year coming out of the bullpen. 28 appearances, very few walks. Hits and innings pitched right about the same. Let him get that first taste of playoff experience out of the way.
Facing Raul Ibanez, who went in after Ricky Henderson jammed his ring finger. That's what you're saying now. How about the run that Ricky invented himself to make it 4-2 before he left the game?
And Lou Piniella helping him. Ricky doesn't have the speed that he once had. Might not have been able to steal second base off the left-handed pitcher. So what do? Sacrifice him to second. Now, see if he can steal third. Everything worked in his favor. Had the right-hander A-Rod in the box. It made the throw for Charles Johnson to third more difficult. Lou Piniella knows all those things.
Had a hit yesterday after coming to the game late, so he's 0 for 1 today, 1 for 3 in this series. Swings through that off-speed offering by Mark Buehrle.
You think he chased that off-speed pitch? Just wait till those shadows get a little bit further out there, and Sasaki starts dropping that splitter on people.
Ooh. The thing. Buehrle throwing a pitch that, if it drops like that, might be reminiscent of Burley Grimes, the last spitballer in the major leagues. Outlawed the spitballs, but it was grandfathered in. You've been throwing them, you can keep throwing them. Well, maybe there's a distant relation from Mark Buehrle to Burley Grimes. You know, my mind starts to wander, you know, a little bit. Brad. You got to reel me in, pal.
He's not throwing a splitter. That was a nice little slide piece, though.
He dropped that he's throwing a spitter. There have been those that have pitched, well, the ancient mariner, Mr. Perry, that might have snuck one in here or there.
There's no question he snuck it in.
I'm being diplomatic.
They talk
Hall
about
of
a
Fame.
strikeout on your scorecard being a K. And if it's a strikeout by a swing, you put the KS. If it's a strikeout and the catcher has to pick the ball up and throw it to first, it's a K 2 to 3. With Gaylord Perry, it was a KY. Should have been.
Probably was. It's good stuff. Lou, now Lou has that 1-2-day-old gray beard look. He concerned me yesterday. He was too clean shaven. That was the Lou that that we really love. That noon start, it's almost like a day game after a night game situation. You have time to break out the razor.
Well, he's blaming not being able to shave on us. There's too many media people around. I can't say no to him.
I like that look. Well, doesn't get it. Now the count is 2-2 to Ibanez.
Well, the crowd just wanting to get into this game, and Seattle not letting him.
Well, Lou, it seems like ancient history that he managed the Yankees, huh? In the 80s. 2.5 years, 86 to 88. Won it all, of course, with the Reds in 1990. Catcher was Joe Oliver. He has in the game now for him. 3 years there, then came right over to Seattle in 93 and has been the manager that has reborn. Well, the Mariners never really on the map. I mean, it took them forever to get a 500 season. They finally did after, what, 15, 16 years under Jim Saturday Night Lefevre, and they fired him. There's a base hit by the Mariners. Ibanez heading to third is McLemore, and he's in there. So all of a sudden, first and third with a 2-run lead. Mike Cameron coming up. The Mariners looking to really put the screws to the White Sox.
Well, the strategy backfires a little bit for Jerry Manuel. You bring in the left-hander to get the left-handed hitter out. When that doesn't happen, you've got nothing but right-handed hitters coming up now. Hustle on the part of McLemore. It's a typical Mark McLemore inning. Not going to hit many balls out of the park. Little things. Advance runners, advance yourself when you can.
But Ibanez, a hit in each game. He's only played half of each one. At the huge hit on Sunday in Anaheim. See, they got more guys on this team who aren't named A-Rod and Edgar. Mike Cameron, 0 for 3 in a sacrifice. Little chopper. Trying to get McLemore in, and the difference of a 2- to 3-run lead, immense. Just immense. The crowd continues to be stunned. Oh, they'll pick it up here in the 9th inning, but bottom of the 9th. But there's Chad Bradford, the submariner from the right side, warming up. Johnson out to talk to Burley. So 6 pitchers yesterday used by the White Sox, 5 today. Game 3 we'll have for you here on ESPN at 1 o'clock Pacific, 3 o'clock Central, 4 o'clock Eastern. That's on Friday. And that's Aaron Seeley going to pitch for Texas. And he'll go against James Baldwin for the White Sox, who was their all-star pitcher, but was not the all-star pitcher that in the second half. He's been injured, etc. We should remind you that the Mets and Giants are on ESPN2 right now. They're underway in San Francisco, and we'll move over here after this is done. We're looking forward to our trip up to Safeco, I can tell you that. Get ourselves some Dungeness crab, trout.
But what the Seattle Mariners want right now is one more run.
Yes, they do.
0-2. Piniella might try to steal it. Send the runner at first, and as he goes on first move from the pitcher, send the runner from third.
A little fister. Insurance time for the Mariners. Cameron delivers against his ex-squad, the White Sox. McLemore scores. 5-2 Seattle.
I'm sure Bradford will be brought into the ball game now, but he was not up and throwing in time to come in and face Mike Cameron. He got Cameron down in the count yesterday, 1-2, and Cameron battled back and got a base hit to tie the game.
And look at this. That run scores, and we'll see it from half the crowd. Come on. You average 6 runs a game. Where are you going? It's 3:15. Cut it out. Should be ashamed of themselves, frankly. All this with 2 out. Walk, single, single, and now here's A-Rod. And I can hear the bells dinging on the Puget Sound right now. The horns blasting off the boats. Swinging and missing is A-Rod, so 0-2 to him. But then again, it was 0-2 to Cameron.
Sasaki up and throwing again down in the Mariner bullpen. was ready to come in. He could throw just a little bit more, but you know, in the back of his mind, he's saying, A-Rod, take all the time you want. Want to drive in another one? I'll gladly take it.
Let's go back to that first inning. It was 1-0, but runners aboard, runners at the corners. Big guys coming up. They only got 1 run. And then Paul Abbott settled down. You cannot say enough about the job that he did. The biggest start of his career. Fishing is A-Rod. He's gone. But the Mariners pick up that all-important insurance run. A 5-2 lead heading to the bottom of the 9th in Chi-Town. The bewitching hour in Chicago. The White Sox trail by 3. And on to nail it down for Seattle. 37 save man and the all-time Japan leading save man, 33-year-old Kazuhiro Sasaki, who has only given up 3 runs in a save situation once, May 12th, to naturally those hard-hitting Oakland A's. The White Sox, can they break through, have gone way back into their bat rack. Not to the 93 team that won the West, but to the 83 team that won the West. And 41-year-old sweet swinging Harold Baines is up to try to get something going. He pinch hits for Jeff Abbott. Harold Baines.
Well, he's got his work cut out for him, though. Not only is Sasaki tough in normal situations, but with that shadow halfway between the pitcher's mound and home, he gets that much more tough.
Swings through that one. Baines coming over back to the White Sox for the 3rd time in the end of July trade that also brought Charles Johnson here coming over from Baltimore. White Sox from 80 to 89. And then 96 and 97 now back again.
Boy, that extra run, though, that Seattle put up in the top of the 9th, just so big. You can afford to make mistakes. You can afford to challenge people. There it is. Hit it.
Just throw strikes with a 3-run lead. Right side of it. It's pretty basic.
Well, until you see the tying run standing up in that on-deck circle, there's not a whole lot of concern. He's over there sitting down on the bench. First pitch fastball down the middle. As was the second strike.
That forkball that he throws is the thing. As we at ESPN2 right now, the Mets have been retired at the top of the 1st. The Giants up. And you can see they have a rally going already at Pac Bell Park. We'll go to that game when this is done, but this is on ESPN2 as we speak. Baines is gone. 1 up, 1 down in the 9th. And now Charles Johnson will come up, a man that has been aboard 5 times in 2 games.
Well, you can't hit what you can't see. And Harold Baines just simply couldn't see that fastball. He's not going to take that pitch if he picks up the rotation. Split finger in the back of his mind, not wanting to chase that. Well, I'm not really a big guy on numbers, but when you look at this right here with Sasaki all year long, 63 appearances during the regular season, only 5 times did he run the count to 2-0. Now that's getting ahead of people, as he did yesterday, as he's doing again this afternoon.
Maybe it was a portent of what was to come. The national anthem was sung today by a group that we haven't heard from in quite a while, the Buckinghams. One of their hits way back when was Kind of a Drag. And it's been kind of a drag for the White Sox thus far. 0-2. Can you talk about the strikes, Rick? Charles Johnson been on twice today with a walk and a hit pitch. Giants have scored. We'll get you details in a moment. Goodbye, Charles Johnson. 2 up, 2 struck out, and maybe, just maybe, this is the last time these fans will see their White Sox. The last out. Yikes. And the person of Ray Durham trying to keep trying to start some sort of rally. Game 3 in Seattle on Friday. We'll have it at 1 Pacific, 3 Central, 4 Eastern. Game 4, if necessary, is in Seattle on Saturday. Game 5, if necessary, and they can only hope here, will be back in Chicago on Sunday. They've had a marvelous season with 95 wins to lead the American League. Are these fans seeing the last of their White Sox this season?
Of those 95 wins, though, more of them came on the road than they did at home. You know, really the only category that the White Sox have had a losing record in all year long has been in day games. 26-30 on the year in day games, 69-37 at night. And wouldn't you know it, the first 3 playoff games are in the afternoon.
Naturally. Here's the strike right there, and the White Sox are down to their last strike. And the Seattle Mariners have their #1 starter, Aaron Seeley, going in Game 3. Their #4 starter, or even 4 or 5 starter, Paul Abbott, went in Game 2. So they deal from serious strength up in the Pacific Northwest on Friday. 3 strikeouts for Sasaki, a large shot of Sasaki. And the Seattle Mariners have come into Chicago, winning 7-4 yesterday in 10, an impressive 5-2 win today. White Sox offense in both games, nothing doing on the scoreboard from the 4th inning on.
Well, the guys at Seattle are counting on to get the job done, are getting it done. It was A-Rod, Edgar, and Olerud yesterday. Jay Buhner with the homer for the go-ahead 3rd run here this afternoon. And then, as usual, Sasaki finishing it off.
Sasaki with the K's, 10 innings pitched, 3 hits, 9 strikeouts by the Mariners bullpen. I mean, you can't do much better than that. So the veterans hitting the homers, and I think back to that play deflected by Mesa, the backhanded play by McLemore. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. Was he safe around at second? It's academic because the White Sox never got anything going, and a stunned Frank Thomas knows that his team right now is feeling a big hurt. Rick Sutcliffe, I enjoyed it, and
my pleasure.
We have a date for afternoon in Seattle.
I'll be there.
Look forward to it. Little seafood, little baseball. For all of us here at Comiskey Park, thanks for watching. I'm Chris Berman saying the final again. Mariners win at 5-2 with a 2-game lead now to John Miller, Joe Morgan,